Camden Yards, the home of the best team in baseball right now. It's the visiting Red Sox led by Mo Vaughn, who will try to break back into the win column. Off to their worst start in nearly 70 years, you have to know the Boston Red Sox are hearing about it and reading about it these days. The Red Sox have the worst record in the major leagues, and although it is early, maybe the standings do have some meaning, especially when the defending division champs are 8.5 out, only 13 games into the season. Hi, everybody. Dan Schulman, Buck Martinez with you at Camden Yards in Baltimore. The Red Sox and the Orioles tonight. Last year, Boston was not a great defensive team, but they could hit. This year, where are the bats?
Well, that's a big question around Boston right now because they're making a lot of mistakes in the field. But last year, they could overcome those mistakes. You look here at the three guys that are the key to the offense, Valentin, Vaughn, and Canseco. Last year, they were hitting the ball out of the ballpark and driving in a lot of runs. So far, they haven't got off with that big power surge. They really need the hitters to come around. They're never going to be a great defensive ball club, but they've got to hit more.
For the Orioles, just about everything is going their way. They have the best record in the major leagues. Maybe one small note of concern. Bobby Bonilla wants to get out of the DH spot and back into the field. Is he rocking the boat?
I don't think so, and I don't think Davey Johnson thinks so either. Bobby Bonilla is a National Leaguer, and coming from the National League, he feels like you have to play on defense to be a complete player. That's all he wants to do. He says, yeah, I'll DH, but I want to also get back out on the field. Remember, I can play in the outfield, too.
Keep an eye on right field tonight. Bonilla's out there for the Orioles. Jose Canseco gets his first start of the season out there for the Red Sox. Baltimore, Boston, coming up.
ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Royal Star by Yamaha. The cruising spirit lives. And by Days Inn Hotels. No matter where you're going, follow the sun to Days Inn.
Here at Camden Yards, the best team in baseball, the worst team in baseball, as the Orioles take on the Red Sox. Preseason prognosticators, Buck, had Kevin Kennedy's Red Sox right in the thick of things, along with the Orioles and the Yankees. Many said that maybe the three best teams in the American League were all in the East in the early going. It hasn't turned out that way.
Well, I think everybody expected the Red Sox to come out with the bats and really put up some big numbers, but they haven't been able to do that. And now I think the entire ball club is pressing every aspect of their team, and every aspect of their game is really struggling a bit. Jose Canseco makes his first start in the outfield tonight. You can see that the Red Sox have a great history, and this is one year that they'd all love to forget. Going all the way back to 1927, they have not had a worse start. You know, it's kind of a domino effect because they've had such a tough time on defense that it's affected the pitching and the hitting. Flip side of the coin, of course, is across the diamond. The Orioles off to a great start.
10-2, their best start since 1966 when they won 97 games and the World Series, as Cal Ripken and Bobby Bonilla lead their teammates onto the field. Bonilla has been talking a whole lot about wanting to get back out into the outfield. He's done that tonight, and we don't have to tell you who the starting shortstop is for the Baltimore Orioles tonight. Consecutive game number 2,166 for Ripken, as we show you the starting lineup for the Red Sox. Kevin Kennedy has changed some things around. Wayne Hosey is out. Reggie Jefferson, the DH tonight. Hasselman gets his second start in a row in place of Mike Stanley behind the plate. Tim Naring's on the DL, so Jim Tatum again plays third. And Will Cordero has struggled with the bat and with the glove. He sits down tonight, and Esteban Beltre gets the start at second.
Right-hander Scott Erickson goes to the mound for the third time this season. He came over to the Orioles last July in a trade with the Minnesota Twins, and boy, did he pick up his season. In September, he was 4-0 last year and has carried that momentum right on into this season. They've made a few mechanical adjustments to Erickson's delivery. They've lengthened his stride a bit. They're trying to get the sinker ball down in the strike zone. He has always had a very good fastball, but he got away from it a bit in Minnesota in a situation where he was trying to be a little too fine. Boy, when you've got a great defensive club behind you, you want to make sure that you put the ball in play, and that's the case here with the Orioles. Hammonds, Anderson, and Bonilla in the outfield. Bobby Bonilla making his first start in right field this season. He's been used exclusively as the DH. And Davey Johnson has said, you know, I'm going to get him out there, but I've got a couple of young guys I'd like to start first. But Bonilla gets his start in the outfield tonight, and the Orioles are off to a great season defensively. Davey Johnson has a little feud going with the media around Baltimore. He says, hey, I'm not going to allow the media to dictate my lineup at all. He says, I am putting the best team on the field, and Bonilla's going to start tonight. It is a non-issue with Davey Johnson. He said, this ball club is just the way it is. I'll put the players out there that I think will do the best job.
First batter tonight for Scott Erickson is the center fielder for the Red Sox, Troy O'Leary. Grounds one over the mound, back of the bag. Ripken spins, fires, and gets him.
Well, when you're on the mound in this ballpark, you've got to throw a lot of ground balls because you've got great defense behind you. Ripken on the second base side of the bag spins and fires to first for the first out of the ball game.
Now the shortstop, John Valentin, number 2 hitter in Kevin Kennedy's lineup tonight. Valentin, one of those big hitters for the Red Sox, who is struggling at the beginning of this season. Valentin hit 27 home runs, drove in 102 last year. You can see how he's not off to that kind of a pace here in the '96 season.
Dan, I think it's a situation where everybody on this ball club is pressing a bit. They recognize they have problems with the gloves, and then the pitchers try to be a little too fine, and they start to walk a few more guys, and all of a sudden you've got those extra base runners on, and then the offense thinks, hey, I got to hit a 3-run homer and get us back in this thing.
The 0-2 from Erickson. Drops low ball 1.
I got a sense that this ball club was very relaxed before this game. They got beat here 6-1 last night, but it seemed as though everybody was pretty much resolved in the fact, hey, we're the ones that are going to have to turn it around. We can't rely on anybody else to do it for us.
The appeal down to first. It's ball 2, says Scott Shula. Red Sox are having meeting upon meeting upon meeting. You ask any player about how many meetings they've had, and they all just kind of roll their eyes. Who have you met with? Well, let's see. We met with the manager yesterday, then the hitters met the day before. Pitchers met this morning. They'll try to work it out any way they can. Fly ball hit deep down the left field line. A curving foul.
Well, that's what happens when you're struggling to break out offensively. Valentin got a pitch up in the strike zone, something you don't get very often from Scott Erickson, and he just pulled it foul down the left field line.
Erickson got O'Leary on a ground ball. Now a 2-2 count to Valentin, who fouls another one off.
That's just the way things work, boy. When you need a big blast like that, it just hooks foul.
The 2-2 from Erickson. Ground ball right side, not hit hard, but it'll squeak through into right field for a base hit.
Valentin got a couple of pitches up in the strike zone during that at bat. Watch Robbie Alomar at second base. He's going to break towards the bag at second because it's a breaking ball. It was a hanging breaking ball, and that's why he was so late getting a break. He expected it to be down and Valentin to pull it. But because it was up, Valentin just slapped it through the hole on the right side.
Erickson now facing Mo Vaughn. Valentin not going, and Vaughn will take ball 1. With all the veterans and players who've accomplished so much on the Red Sox roster, if there is one leader on this team, is this the guy?
Yes, it is. And he knows that. He knows that he has to be the guy to get a big blast, to hit a big home run, to set the tone for the ball game. And he accepts that. He won the MVP last year, in my mind, in the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, when things could have really gone poorly for the Red Sox. He just took over offensively and really carried the ball club.
offensive help that GM Dan Duquette went out and got for the Red Sox this year. Kevin Mitchell added, if he can stay healthy, become part of the lineup. Will Cordero. It was expected, if anything, maybe Vaughn's numbers would improve because he'd have more help around him.
And he believes that when it's all said and done, they will improve, and they will be big numbers again.
2-0 pitch. Drops down and away. 3 balls and no strikes for Mo Vaughn with Valentin down at first.
Now here you give Big Mo the green light. He's going to get it an awful lot during the course of a season, but right now, as Kevin Kennedy is trying to get his club started offensively, you give these big sluggers every opportunity they can get to get something going.
Got the green light. Ground ball to second. Alomar to Ripken for 1. Back to first. Double play. And that, in a nutshell, is the way things have gone for the Red Sox this year. The Orioles are coming up at Camden Yards. Bottom of the first inning at Camden Yards, the Baltimore Orioles getting set to come to bat against Boston right-hander Aaron Seeley. Orioles beat the Red Sox 6-1 last night. Here's the lineup. Same as last night, with the exception that now Bobby Bonilla is the right fielder. Tony Tarasco will spend a night at DH. B.J. Surhoff homered again last night, his 4th. He trails only Cecil Fielder and Frank Thomas in slugging in the American League.
Right-hander Aaron Seeley be on the mound tonight for Kevin Kennedy. This will be his 3rd start of the season. He's 0-1. ERA somewhat inflated, but you also have to consider the few innings that pitchers work at this point of the year. He started out the season at Kansas City, lasted 5 innings, gave up 8 hits. He's a 4-pitch pitcher that has maybe one of the best curveballs in the American League. But in order for that curveball to be effective, he's got to be able to get that fastball over early in the count. Defense has been a problem here with the Red Sox this year. It's Greenwell. Troy O'Leary moves from right to center now. Dwayne Hosey's played a lot of center field. Jose Canseco makes just his 2nd start in right field with the Red Sox. Jim Tatum's at 3rd base. He is taking over for the injured Tim Daring, who's just been placed on a disabled list. Valentin Beltry, Mo Vaughn's at first, and Bill Hasselman starts. There's a look at Canseco in right field. I asked him when he last played. He said, well, I can't really remember. I know I played a couple of games in the spring, but it's no big deal. I've been out there an awful lot.
He makes it kind of interesting out there. He and Bobby Bonilla, both of them. There may be the odd play out in right field tonight here at Camden Yards as Brady Anderson steps in, the American League Player of the Week last week. Some big-time numbers. Average, power, stealing bases, doing it all at the top of the order for the Orioles. Breaking ball, grounded foul, 1-1.
Now Brady Anderson, I think, is really going to take advantage of this packed lineup behind him. Big numbers last week. He's got Alomar hitting behind them. He can take 4 pitches, work the count. He has a great hitter in the 2 spot. There was a time when Brady Anderson felt like he had to make big things happen all the time, and he expanded his strike zone probably a little bit more than he should.
2-1 pitch, sails outside, ball 3.
Here's the aspect I mentioned about Seeley not being able to hit the ball early in the count.
The 3-1. Foul back. Every now and again, the Orioles in the past few years have tinkered with the batting order, moved Anderson down, sometimes down to 6th, but he always winds up back in the leadoff spot eventually as he takes a curveball for strike 3.
Well, that's a great curveball from Aaron Seeley, and it looked as though Brady Anderson recognized it, thought it was going to be high, and gave up on it. Watch his body right here. He kind of gives up on it, but the break, as it gets into the strike zone, brings it down to the upper limits of the strike zone. First strikeout for Aaron Seeley.
And the batter, Roberto Alomar, who takes a fastball for strike 1. Alomar, like Anderson, off to a good start with the bat here in '96. Orioles have had a lot of base runners on for the heart of the order. That's the credit there goes to Anderson and Alomar. Seeley ahead of Alomar, a ball and 2 strikes. Just inside with a fastball, 2-2.
One thing I like already about the way Seeley's working to Alomar is he's working very quickly. That'll keep your defense on their toes.
One with the breaking ball, slow roller out to second. Beltre plays it on to first. They get Alomar by a step, 2 down.
Esteban Beltre getting the start tonight. Will Cordero's had some problems defensively, 6 errors at second base. So Kennedy said, hey, we'll make some changes here. Last year they had Louis Alicea there. Alicea was let go by the Red Sox. He ended up in St. Louis. But Will Cordero's trying to make the adjustment. He's a natural shortstop. Played some outfield last year. He has had a tough go of it so far.
Breaking ball strike to Rafael Palmeiro. Lost in the Forest defense and that offensive start for the Red Sox is that Aaron Seeley came into the season as maybe one of the biggest issues facing Boston. Could he come back, stay healthy, missed most of last year? Could he fit in as a number 2, number 3 guy in that Red Sox rotation?
Well, they need him to take his turn all year long. He came up in '93 and really came onto the scene with a flurry. Al Nipper, the pitching coach, worked with Seeley a bit in the minors, and now in a situation where he would love Aaron Seeley to stay healthy. From day one, everybody felt that Aaron Seeley had a real understanding of pitching, moving the ball around.
3-2 pitch, and he gets them. Seeley gets the Orioles 3 up, 3 down, a couple of strikeouts as well. Jose Canseco leads it off when we come back.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday Night Baseball studios. I'm Carl Ravitch. Sad news today. Angels hitting instructor Rod Carew has asked his team for a leave of absence. Now he has to tend to the very sad task of tending to his daughter's funeral. Michelle Carew, 18 years old, passed away today, the result of leukemia. She has battled it bravely for 7 months, but today her life ended at 18 years old. More on that story in the SportsCenter, which follows our second game. Let's go back to Baltimore.
Thank you, Carl. We certainly extend our sympathies to Rod Carew and his family, as I'm sure everyone in the world of baseball does. It was a very well-publicized campaign trying to find a suitable donor for Michelle Carew. And it really heightened the awareness, I think, of leukemia and various other afflictions which require donors, and our thoughts are with the Carew family. Top of the second inning in Baltimore, Jose Canseco to lead it off, followed by Mike Greenwell and Reggie Jefferson. Scott Erickson on the mound for the Orioles. Canseco again making his first appearance of this regular season in right field. Maybe wanting to deflect a little bit of the attention off Bobby Bonilla.
Well, it's a situation where Kevin Kennedy had thought about it before, and right now Kevin Mitchell's got a hamstring problem. Not quite 100%, so they couldn't put him out there. There's Kevin Mitchell, who slipped on the wet turf at Fenway Park and strained a hamstring. He's available. They need a pinch hitter.
Lined into right field, a base hit for Canseco. Second hit of the night for the Red Sox.
This is interesting, their approach. Valentin got a hit to right field. Now Canseco gets a hit to right field. It suggests that they're trying to get something going and not really make it happen with one swing of the bat. Watch this swing. Ball is inside, but Canseco is satisfied to go the other way. The Orioles had a huge shift on him as Alomar was straight up the middle right behind second. Guess you've got to walk before you can run. Need some base runners on before you can mount a rally.
The batter now, Mike Greenwell. long time and has had a lot of success against Scott Erickson over the course of their careers.
Well, he hasn't done an awful lot of damage, just 2 ribbies, but Mike Greenwell is good when the ball is down and out over the plate because of that sinking fastball. That's where Erickson likes to work a lot.
In terms of walking before they can run, the Red Sox got a single run last night in the 9th inning, snapping a 23-inning scoreless streak. Is now home plate umpire Don Denkinger out to the mound. So looking at Scott Erickson's glove.
They're looking at baseballs right now, and I'm sure that Greenwell talked to Denkinger about that ball. Check the ball. He may have seen a scuff on it. So he went out and had a few words for Erickson. He never got to the point of checking his glove or anything, but look at this last pitch. Lots of sink on that ball, and after that, Greenwell turned and asked Denkinger to check the ball. Erickson's always had a good sinker. I don't recall anybody really suggesting that he was scuffing it or something, but Greenwell felt there was something odd about the way that pitch came in there.
The 0-1 with Canseco at first. That pitch is low as well. A ball and a strike.
If you're not scuffing the ball, that's got to make you feel real good as a pitcher. Man, I got a good sinker tonight.
It's the big pitch for Erickson, the sinking fastball. Got a double play in the first inning. Mo Vaughn hit into it, 4-6-3. Canseco at first now, the batter Greenwell. Sends one foul, the ball and 2 strikes. From Minnesota midway through last season, finished up strong with the Orioles, a big spring and off to a good start here in the regular season. Close pitch taken for ball 2.
Real close pitch. He's trying to paint that inside corner. With 2 strikes, Erickson's aware that Greenwell likes the ball away. He can drive it to left field, so they set up inside. Tries to catch the inside corner, and Don Denkinger felt that it was just off the plate.
2-2 count. Canseco at first, nobody out of the Red Sox second. Jammed him. Little looper to Ripken at short, 1 down.
I think Ripken was toying with the idea of letting that thing fall. Fastball inside. Jams Greenwell down around the label.
Here's Reggie Jefferson, DHing tonight. As you can see, he hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities to play this season. When some of the big bats arrived in Boston, Jefferson was relegated to the bench. Lines one down the left field line, and it is twisting foul. Canseco will have to head back to first. Red Sox fan. There they came up with a souvenir. And there he does get it. And he gave it away. Kevin Kennedy's efforts to shake things up and try to find a combination that'll work. Jefferson, Esteban Beltre inserted into the lineup tonight. The 0-1. This is ball 1.
One thing's good about Kennedy making lineup changes right now is the fact that there's not a Red Sox player on the bench that can come up and argue his case.
That's fair.
At 2-11, and Kennedy's really got kind of a free rein. Try anything. Kevin Kennedy's had a bunch of different leadoff hitters. He's trying to spark the offense a bit tonight. With Jefferson's bat in there, left-handed hitter in this very cozy ballpark, particularly in right field.
The 2-1. Down the line, a base hit. Canseco's going to hold up at second. Hammonds will fire it back in. And all 3 of the Red Sox hits have been to the opposite field tonight. Let's send you to the studio. Here's Carl Ravitch.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. Marlins and Braves. Greg Maddux off a loss. trying to shut down Florida, who has basically shut themselves down recently. Jeff Conine on a 2-for-24 slope, singles in a run. Devon White scores 1-0 Marlins. Let's get back to Dan.
All right, Carl, the Marlins, Buck, just like the Red Sox, they'll take any little base hit the other way as long as it scores a run.
Boy, they're scoring fewer runs than the Red Sox, and they need some offense. They went out and signed all those free agents in the offseason and haven't been able to score any runs at all.
3 hits for the Red Sox so far tonight through an inning and a third. They've got 2 on, 1 out for the catcher, Bill Hasselman. Hasselman playing in place of Mike Stanley. Stanley, along with Will Cordero, his teammate, benched tonight. They have a couple of the worst batting average in Major League Baseball right now. Hasselman will make his 2nd start in a row. Stanley's sitting it out. Ahead of Hasselman, 0-2. Got him. 3 pitches, and Hasselman is gone. First strikeout of the night for Scott Erickson.
You have to respect the velocity that Erickson has with his fastball, so Hasselman starts his swing early, and you can see that he missed that big breaking ball by about 6 inches. When this guy is down around the knees with his fastball and his slider, he is awfully tough.
Jim Tatum, the batter, third baseman tonight. 2nd consecutive start. Tim Naring on the DL with a hamstring problem. Out at second, Jose Canseco, Reggie Jefferson at first, each with base hits. Now 2 down in the inning, though. Down the line in left field, dropping again, just foul, and boy, the Red Sox just cannot get a bounce here in the early go.
Just missing by a few inches of being extra bases and cashing in 1, maybe 2 runs right there. Tatum gets that ball inside. Boy, he's quick, gets the barrel to it, but he can't keep it fair down the left field line. You can see the thing hooking and ends up about a foot outside the foul line.
1-1 count. 2 down, 2 on. Line to short, and Ripken is there, and that's it for the Red Sox in the 2nd. They will leave a couple aboard, and it's the Orioles right fielder, Bobby Bonilla, who will lead it off when we come back. Scoreless game at the bottom of the 2nd at Camden Yards. As you can see, the Red Sox have had their chances. 3 hits through their first 2 at-bats. The Orioles went 3 up and 3 down against Aaron Seeley in the first, and that big breaking ball that you saw there, he used it very effectively in the first inning. A couple of strikeouts and ground ball. Bobby Bonilla to be followed by Cal Ripken and then B.J. Surha. A couple of days ago, when Bonilla first started voicing loudly his displeasure about DH, he was greeted with the odd boo here at Camden Yards, but when he was announced as the starting right fielder tonight, it was pretty positive. Tony Carrasco a bit of a stint at DH tonight. 3-0 pitch.
I don't think it's a real big deal with Bonilla. He knows he's going to DH a lot, but maybe Johnson has told him, I'm going to get you in the outfield. The club got off to such a good start. There was really a reluctance on Johnson's part to make any changes. He had Carrasco in right, he had Jeffrey Hammonds in left. He said, why should I change anything? We're rolling right now.
And it's ball 4. Bonilla down to first with a leadoff walk in the 2nd. First base runner given up by Aaron Seeley tonight. Now the batter, Cal Ripken Jr. Even with a relatively slow start with the bat this year, Ripken's had enough help from his teammates, and it's gone virtually unnoticed.
Well, it's also a fact that he's driven in 6 runs. He has yet to hit a home run, but adding 5th in the lineup, got an opportunity to do some damage when you consider who's 1 through 4. And the streak is still on.
The 1-0. Breaking ball that catcher Bill Hasselman felt dropped in, but home plate umpire Don Deckerman didn't see it that way.
Seeley's got a very good breaking curveball. He's got a situation where he throws it on the same plane as his fastball from time to time. It's tough to really pick up. That's a cutter to this.
Can a pitch be so good and break so much that it doesn't only straighten up and buckle the hitter, it buckles the umpire sometimes because there's so much movement on it, and maybe he's looking for something.
Yeah, umpires have a timing situation too, and Don Denkinger just didn't like the way that one looked. Maybe he picked it up later on and pitched as it missed the strike zone a bit.
Vaughn at a green light for the Red Sox with a 3-0 count. Will Cal Ripken have one? Apparently not. 3-1.
Orioles can play hit and run right here. They are really a freewheeling ball club this year. They got a little more speed now, but he not a great base stealing threat, but with Ripken at the plate and his ability to put the ball in play, they can open up the hole on the infield here.
Not going, and Ripken will take another close pitch for ball 4. Back-to-back walks to start the 2nd inning. Seeley having trouble getting the calls.
He's made some pretty good pitches, too. There's a fastball, but that ball was off the plate outside. Ripken had an opportunity to give it a close look. A little encouragement from Bo Vaughn. Now Seeley's talking to Tatum about the possibility of a bunt with Bonilla at second and Ripken at first. I wouldn't be thinking bunt with P.J. Surhoff here.
Surhoff, one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball in the early going this season. He has settled in to Baltimore, not only offensively, doing a fine job at third base, a position he didn't play last year. Look at that slugging, the batting average. It is 4th home run of the season last night.
This is going to be one of the better pickups for the Orioles when it's all said and done down the road. Surhoff really gives them a veteran bat down in the lineup.
Davey Johnson was telling us last week when we were in to do the Orioles and the Indians that a couple of times when Surhoff caught in spring training, it was just like he'd never left the position. He got back there nice and easy and looked like he was at home. The Orioles should need him there as Surhoff lifts a fly ball to right field. First chance of the night for Canseco. He'll make it. Bonilla tags at second and will head down to third. Orioles on the corners with 1 down.
Canseco got the ball right back into second base to keep the double play in order. No problem. What a great move. Puts the defensive outfielder out there, and they hit it to him.
At third base, Bonilla. At first base, Ripken. 1 down, Baltimore second. Scoreless game, and the batter is the catcher, Chris Hoyles.
You mentioned Stanley and Hoyles both struggling at the plate last night. Mike Stanley told Chris Hoyles, "I'll race you to 10 hits."
Hoyles, the only one that's two playing tonight. Had a double last night, trying to get on track.
You know, it's really difficult psychologically when you get off to a slow start. All of a sudden you think, man, am I ever going to get another hit? And then you start making small changes, and before you know it, they're big changes, and all of a sudden you've really made it worse. Knocked yourself into a prolonged slump.
Ground ball to short, not hit all that hard. The second for one, high throw to first, and it'll cost the Red Sox a double play and a run.
Now, this is one of the plays that won't show up as an error, but it certainly is a costly play because they didn't turn the double play. Beltre really pitted him with that runner bearing down on him, and he puts Mo Vaughn in harm's way as that high throw is off the mark. Ripken is all over the second baseman. He unloads in a hurry, and you see the high throw takes Mo Vaughn right into Hoyle's path. It scored a fielder's choice, no error, but the Orioles get a run on a play that the defense should have completed. The catcher running, got to make that double play and get out of the inning.
Hoyles gets an RBI, Bonilla scores, and the Orioles lead 1-0. Plate now, Tony Tarasco. A lot of strange things showing up in Red Sox games this year. Tarasco DHing for the first time. Last night, the Red Sox weren't charged with any errors, but there were a couple of tough plays in the outfield. But again, Boston fielders just couldn't quite make the play. Both scored as hits, but both proved to be costly.
There's quite a crash down there at first base beyond the bag. Mo Vaughn was run into by Chris Hoyles, the Oriole catcher, but he seems to be okay.
It's a pretty fair-sized collision between those two guys.
A couple of heavyweights.
2-0 to Tarasco. Tough play for Valentin. He'll go to second, and they will get him. Scooping the short hop of the bag is Beltre, still upset with himself for the earlier throw that's given the Orioles a 1-0 lead. Orioles lead the struggling Red Sox 1-0 without the benefit of a base hit tonight. Here's why.
It's a potential double play ball. Valentin is very slow getting it to Beltre. Ripken's all over the second baseman, and look at the high throw. Draws Mo Vaughn off the bag and then right into the base path. Chris Hoyles bowls him over on the play. The Orioles get a run across. Hoyles gets an RBI, and without benefit of the hit, the Orioles are ahead 1-0.
Beltre with an early chance to redeem himself here, leading off the top of the third. Scott Erickson on the mound for the Orioles. And a first pitch strike. Beltre replacing Will Cordero tonight. Slashes it foul, 0-2. Beltre has spent time in the major leagues with the White Sox and the Rangers, and now a utility infielder with the Red Sox.
Will Cordero on the bench tonight, and of course the let's talk about move. Bringing Cordero from the Expos to the Red Sox. Kevin Kennedy has made several dramatic changes in his lineup tonight. Including the second base, he put Beltre in there. He's got Jose Canseco in the field defensively. First time this season, and he's got Reggie Jefferson as the DH for the first time.
2-2.
We mentioned the fact of the urgency for the Red Sox. That's just the first couple of weeks of the season, but they are 9 games back of the Orioles in the loss column. That's what is alarming about this so far.
Full count now. Dropped just below the knees. Obviously, they didn't expect to get out of the gate 2-11, but how much better do you think they expected things to be? The acquisitions of Mitchell, Cordero. Could this team reasonably? Side ball 4. Beltre will take the walk.
Center fielder, Troy O'Leary.
The Red Sox with a base runner. The second half of our Wednesday night doubleheader. How about this? A couple of sluggers. Fielder and Griffey will get it going out of the Kingdom. Dwayne Stats and Dave Campbell will be there. Sterling Hitchcock, already 3-0 for the Mariners, will try to detain Big Daddy tonight. Nobody's been able to do that recently. Fielder had 3 home runs yesterday up in Toronto.
Well, he's got 9 now on the season. The major league record for home runs in April is 11. Cecil has 12 more games in April.
So you think it's in a little bit of jeopardy?
Yeah, I think so.
Troy O'Leary will take a strike. Let's get back to the Red Sox. Cordero's a player who made a lot of errors at his natural position, shortstop, 80 over the last 3 years, and they tell him, son, you're a second baseman. Kevin Mitchell is a left fielder without a lot of range, without a lot of health. They're going to try to make him a right fielder. He's now injured. How much better should the Red Sox have expected things to be in the early game?
Well, they should have expected to score more runs. They should have been able to score more runs than just over 3 runs a ball game. They've added Mike Stanley behind the plate. He drove in 83 last year for the Yankees, and they expected this to be a powerful offensive team, and it will be. They're just off to a slow start. When you make all the errors, you're not scoring any runs, everything is magnified.
Troy O'Leary in the leadoff spot for the Red Sox. One of 5 different leadoff hitters Kevin Kennedy's already used this season. Fouls it back. I guess on Kevin Kennedy's ever-lengthening wish list, maybe a true leadoff hitter might slip in there somewhere. They keep experimenting, trying to find the right combination, the right guy at the top of the order.
Well, it's difficult to get everything. You know, they got Kevin Mitchell. They signed him as a free agent. We talked about Cordero and Stanley. You think you're a division champ defending that title, things are in pretty good shape. Here's Royals behind the plate, smothers this breaking ball in the dirt. Takes a quick look at first base. Beltray has to hold his ground.
2-2 count on Troy O'Leary. 0 for 1. Ground ball to short his first time out. There goes Beltray. Fly ball hit to left field. Pretty deep. Hammond's backing up on it and will make the catch just in front of the track. Beltray hustles back to first.
Well, you can see the Red Sox are trying to force the issue here. They try to play hit and run, but O'Leary gets underneath it. You see the runner at first base, Beltray, moving on to pitch, but it's lifted to left field. And Jeffrey Hammonds corrals it. Beltray has to retreat.
Now John Valentin. He'll take a strike. Valentin in his first at bat of the night went the other way. Soft single to right. He's showing signs of starting to get the bat going the last 2-3 days.
Well, Valentin, Vaughn, and Canseco got 6 of the 7 hits here last night against the Orioles. And as we mentioned, that these are the guys that are going to have to get the offense flowing. They've got to start getting on base, hitting the extra base hit, driving the ball out of the ballpark. Big numbers for the Red Sox shortstop last year. He is certainly an offensive player, and he's prone to making defensive mistakes, but he'll put up with those mistakes because he puts up big numbers with the bat.
Erickson ahead of him, 0-2. Ball hit foul.
Erickson has made 3 bad pitches against Valentin where they were very hittable pitches. Basically the only bad pitches he's thrown all night, but he hasn't really been hurt by it. Valentin got a breaking ball in that he hammered just foul out of the ballpark. And there another hanger stayed inside and he pulled it foul outside the bag at third. Erickson threw 28 minutes yesterday in the bullpen. It's really unusual. That is basically what you do 2 days before a start, as opposed to the day before a start.
And both pitchers now wanting that outside corner and not getting it.
Orioles is set up on the outside corner. Erickson, with that good movement, felt like he caught the outside corner. Dankinger hasn't really given either pitcher that outside corner yet.
What do you suppose is behind the 28 minutes of throwing?
Well, he has found out that he throws better on a more regular basis. He has not really pitched as often as he would like early in the season. So he's gone down in the bullpen and gotten some real good quality work in down there, hopeful of maintaining that good sinking action on his fastball. He's a guy that likes to throw a lot, has a very durable arm. He just felt like he wanted to continue to throw and get in a good frame of mind. 28 minutes, that's a long time to throw.
Runner goes, 2-2, hit foul again. Beltre back to first. Last night, David Wells, who's had an outstanding start to the '96 season, shut down the Red Sox. Erickson won 9 games for the Orioles in half a year last year. Wells won 16, split between 2 teams. All of a sudden, this rotation, Kent Mercker coming over from Atlanta, sitting next to Wells. Pretty formidable top 4, to be sure, and a good young prospected Jimmy Haynes right now is the number 5 guy. Reworked, but much improved Orioles ball club.
Jimmy Haynes, the young right-hander, is the only guy in the rotation to lose. David Wells was outstanding last night with that great fastball. Didn't throw an awful lot of off-speed pitches, just moved his fastball around.
Line into right center field. That's a base hit. Beltre will make the turn and head to third. Valentin is 2 for 2. And the Red Sox have runners at first and third with just 1 down.
First baseman,
Valentin has seen the ball real good all night long against Scott Erickson. Right here, this ball is out over the plate. A good pitch, low, down around the knees, and Valentin goes up the alley. Brady Anderson cuts it off. Beltre goes first to third. And the Red Sox have something going.
And now all 4 hits for the Red Sox have been to the opposite field. There's Mo Vaughn with a big RBI opportunity. Back in the first inning, Vaughn hit into an inning-ending 4-6-3 double play. Erickson will induce a lot of ground balls, a lot of double plays. Vaughn will try to get that hard sinker up into the air, at least bring home a run with a fly ball. Runner goes from first. And Vaughn hits one to left center field. Anderson over to make the catch. The throw will come into second as Beltre comes in. A sacrifice fly for Mo Vaughn and the Red Sox have tied it at 1.
Another good approach by a Red Sox hitter in this lineup. Just not trying to do too much. There was a time when Mo Vaughn would think nothing but 3-run homer, but right now he knows he's got to cash in that base runner from third, so he goes straight away to center. Didn't get all of it. Looked right down at third base to see if that base runner was tagging up.
Two down now for Canseco. Erickson starts him with a strike. At first, 2 down. Canseco with a base hit his first time up. Red Sox have 4 hits. The Orioles don't have one yet, but it's a 1-1 game.
Valentin, Vaughn, and Canseco right in the middle of this inning. Vaughn's already cashed in 1.
Valentin breaks for second. safe at second is John Valentin with a stolen base.
Not your typical Red Sox inning, is it? They're pulling out all the stops with 2 out. Canseco at the plate. Kevin Kennedy starts the base runner. John Valentin. Hoyos with a good toss, but Valentin got such a good jump at first base, he just beats the tag by Alomar. Ooh, his hand came up and his foot didn't touch the base. First stolen base of the year.
And a runner in scoring position with 2 down for Canseco. Fouls one into the third base dugout on an inside pitch. Bumble into himself a little bit. Two down, 1 ball, 2 strikes. The count on Canseco. Down low, and he got him. Erickson's second strikeout of the game. Canseco frustrated, but the Red Sox have tied it up. Tied at 1, bottom of the 3rd inning here at Camden Yards. The Red Sox, the worst record in the major leagues. The Orioles, the best. Tie game right now, bottom of the 3rd, and the bottom of the order. The number 9 man, Jeffrey Hammond, leading it off and taking inside from Aaron Seeley for ball 1. One of the pleasant surprises for the Baltimore Orioles here in the early going, the play of Jeffrey Hammond.
I've always felt that he had this type of ability. It's just been a problem of his overcoming injuries. He's not been able to stay healthy to assume an everyday role in the outfield. He's got great skills. When he first came up to the big leagues, you could see that he had a good idea about hitting. He handled the breaking ball very well.
Ground ball to second. Beltre to a knee to get it. Low throw, and they do not get him.
Well, Beltre made a good play to stop the ball. Then when he got to his feet, Hammonds runs well. Watch the effort by the second baseman. Going to his right, gets to his feet quickly and fires to move on at first base. Wow, I don't know. Looked like they had him. Mo Vaughn scooped that ball. It looked like he was ahead of the base runner when he caught it.
Vaughn had kind of backhanded it. John Shulock may actually have been shielded a little bit from the view of the baseball. He'll call Hammond safe. It scored an infield single. First hit of the 9th for the Orioles. The leadoff man on in the 3rd, and the top of the order up, and Brady Anderson. Here's another aspect, Buck, of the 96 Orioles compared to the 95 Orioles. This team's going to run a lot.
Well, I got a couple of guys at the top of the lineup in Anderson and Alomar, and a couple of guys at the bottom in Carrasco and Hammonds, and they can run.
Hammond's not going, and Anderson will take that for a strike on a breaking ball that he felt was inside off the plate.
It's another curveball. Anderson struck out on a curveball his first time up. John Denkinger felt that it caught the inside corner. Just another look back at the umpire to check with Denkinger. You sure that was this one? Okay, now you're really sure, huh? Okay.
The 0-1. Appeal down to 3rd, no swing, says Chino. 1-1. Aaron Seeley, a 3-up, 3-down first, walked a couple, didn't give up a hit in the 2nd, but the Orioles scored a run. Now leadoff base hit by Hammonds in the 3rd, a 1-1 count on Brady Anderson. The third baseman into left field. The base hit, and Hammond's running aggressively all the way. Will make it to third.
Another ground ball that may have been playable. Jim Tatum, the third baseman, dove over it. You can see he actually got to it, but couldn't keep it on the infield. Jeffrey Hammond's running from first, goes first for third.
And the Orioles in business here in the third. The batter, Roberto Alomar. Again, good speed on the bases. A guy who can do a lot of things with the bat at the plate in Alomar. Seeley starts him with a fastball strike. Anderson being held on. Hammond's his leadoff third. And the 0-1. High. Ball in the strike.
Here's where a pitcher gets very tentative, trying to make a perfect pitch. He's a little gun-shy of the defense behind him. He's had an opportunity for a double play tonight to get some help behind him. And now Seeley is thinking, hey, I got to make a real good pitch with Hammonds at third and Anderson at first. Tough to pitch that way. You're so concerned about making a mistake, you really lose your aggressiveness.
Maybe this is reading into things, but you almost get the sense that the Red Sox are saying, I wonder what's going to go wrong next, whereas the Orioles are saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Let's take advantage of it again.
Let's make something happen.
Ground ball to second. Could be two. There's one. There's two. The run will come in, though, as the Red Sox do turn a double play, but the Orioles have taken a 2-1 lead.
Well, they got a tough guy to double up in Robbie Alomar, and you can see there still wasn't that crispness you would like to see. Beltre to throw a little high to Valentin, but Valentin has a strong arm and guns across the diamond to move on for the double play. They get 2 outs, but the Orioles take the lead.
The batter, Palmeiro. No RBI for Alomar on the play. Orioles lead here in the bottom of the third at Camden Yards. Big swing by Palmeiro, and it's quickly 0-2. Strikeout victim in the first. Seeley now working quickly. Palmeiro a bit out in front, lifts a fly ball to center field. Underneath it is O'Leary, and the Orioles are done in the third. They have taken the lead again against Aaron Seeley through 3 complete, 2-1 Baltimore.
ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by your local Sherwin-Williams paint and decorating stores. Ask Sherwin-Williams, America's neighborhood place for paint.
Top of the 4th inning in Baltimore, the Orioles have scored 2 runs on just 2 hits against Aaron Seeley. The Red Sox have had their chances. They've come up with 1 run so far. Scott Erickson opening up the 4th against Mike Greenwell, followed by Reggie Jefferson and then Bill Hasselman. Buck, if there is an eye in the Red Sox storm, Mike Greenwell might be the guy. He's been around a long time, but has had some trouble defensively and has reportedly accused the media of worsening the Red Sox defensive problems by harping on them excessively, blowing them out of proportion.
It went on me. I never really got too affected by somebody saying that I was having a bad game defensively. Throw a ball into center field, and it wasn't really a writer's fault. It was my problem. But you know what? Fenway, in Boston in general, these guys really get a lot of heat, but I don't think that anybody can really affect the way you play out there except you. Manager puts you in the lineup, you got a job to do.
When you were playing, and you played in 3 American cities, none of the Boston, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Toronto, you'd go into Boston, read the papers about how the Red Sox were doing, and you say to yourself, I'm glad I don't play this game.
Never.
Not that bad.
Never. I always thought Fenway would be a tremendous place to play because the fans were always excited. I mean, sure, you had to take the heat when you played poorly, but they certainly enjoyed the excitement when they had good years and had good days at the plate. Boston is a tremendous place to play, in my mind, any sport, because the fans are so animate. They really wear their emotions on their sleeve.
You just wanted to take a run at 3 monster, 318 feet away.
It's the only place I had a chance to hit one.
Full count on Greenwell to lead off the top of the 4th inning. Grounded over Erickson, but Ripken is there. 1 down. Let's go to the studio. Here's Carl Ravitch.
Hi, Dan, from the Red Sox to the White Sox against Kevin Apier at Harold Baines. Lifetime 361 against him with 1 home run. Boom, make it 2 home runs. Number 3 on the season for Harold Baines. Next up, Robin Ventura. Back-to-back, perhaps. Back goes Michael Tucker to the wall. He goes up and comes down with the ball. They have completed 2. It is 1-0 in favor of the White Sox. Dan?
I don't think anybody... I didn't think anybody had a handle on Kevin Apier. It seems as though Baines does. Boy, Apier is nasty. His name is being mentioned around American League East towns.
Base hit left field, Reggie Jefferson. He's 2 for 2. Not bad considering he came into the game tonight with only 2 at-bats this season. Jefferson's had his average up to 750, 3 for 4.
You can bet if the Red Sox come back and win this game, Reggie Jefferson will get a chance to play tomorrow. Right now, they're going to go with a hot hand. Canseco's in right tonight. He's usually the DH, but if they should win this game, you can bet they'll just take that lineup card down and save it for tomorrow.
Bill Hasselman is the batter. Jefferson at first. Hasselman trying to make the most of his opportunities. Second start in a row in place of Mike Stanton. Struck out in the second. Strike now to Hasselman.
Hasselman struck out his first time back in the 2nd inning on a nasty breaking ball. Erickson got the fastball down and away to him, and then came after him with a couple of breaking balls and got the strikeout.
Works. Weak ground ball hit foul down the 3rd base side.
B.J. Surhoff has really been a pleasant surprise defensively at 3rd base. There's a situation where he came in here and they didn't really know how well he was going to handle the move, but he is very confident, very comfortable, really enjoying the adjustment. He's been the catcher for several years in Milwaukee. Davey Johnson today, he's done everything you could hope for.
Johnson's quite candid when you talk to him about everything that's new to him, and on top of the new team and a lot of new players, he's just getting to know the umpires' games, their tendencies, his players' moves, who he can push, who he's got to use kid gloves on. He's very candid about that kind of stuff. And whatever he's doing, it's working so far.
Well, you can be with a club the entire spring and not really know anything about a guy until you see him in the regular season, how he reacts to offers, how he reacts to getting a couple of hits, making an error in the field. That's what Davey Johnson has to learn about his team here in the early stages of this season.
struck him out. 2 down. Let's go to Carl Ravitch.
All right, Dan, from the AL East leaders to the AL Central leaders. Cleveland is in Minnesota. They're up 2-0. Charles Nagy's given up 1 home run in 14 innings. That's his second home run he's allowed. Scott Stahoviak, he breaks out of an 0-for-8 slump. We're tied at 2 as they head to the top of the third.
All right, Carl, thank you. The Minnesota Twins hoping for bigger and better things here in the '96 season. A couple of key acquisitions. Hoping to get Kirby Puckett back at some point. Puckett here at the Retina Institute of Maryland here in Baltimore today. Tatum steps in for the Red Sox. Was to have undergone laser surgery that they hope will speed things up and get Kirby back in the lineup before too long. And that's not only good for the Twins, that's good for baseball to get Kirby Puckett back.
Well, Puckett's got a form of glaucoma, and they say it's the early stages, and they hope that this laser surgery will relieve some of the pressure and get a good blood flow going. Good job by Hoyles there as he smothered that breaking pitch. Breaking ball. Hoyles is thinking down and away. That's where trouble lurks, and he smothers that breaking ball to keep the base runner at first base.
Two down. Jefferson at first after a base hit, and a strike. 1-2 to Tatum.
Erickson can go right back to the slider now. Tatum had a big wild swing at it. He misses bat.
Scattered his hits well so far this game. Having given up 5 for 3 2/3. Fly ball to left. Hammonds is there. The Red Sox are done. 2-1 Orioles with Bonilla, then Ripken, and then B.J. Surhoff coming up. Orioles lead the Red Sox 2-1 bottom of the 4th inning. Scott Erickson, Aaron Seeley, the pitchers tonight, and for Seeley, a tough task ahead here this inning. The middle third of the order: Bobby Bonilla, Cal Ripken, B.J. Surhoff. Same trio who led off the 2nd inning when the Orioles scored a run. There's a mighty cut from Bobby Bonilla. I would imagine, Buck, and we talked last week here at Camden Yards against the Indians about that Bobby Bonilla one-legged stance where the front leg gets up in the air. Against Seeley with that breaking ball, how does he not get off balance trying to hit that?
It's so difficult to time it. He lifts that front leg and just waits there for the pitch to be delivered.
Fly ball to left. Greenwell is there. Bonilla's gone. 1 down.
He's really almost at a static position when he has that leg elevated. He's waiting on that back leg. Timing is so important and so critical. Watch how he lifts that front leg up, and everything is back on that left leg, and then he goes after the pitch. That ball got in on him a bit.
One down for Cal Ripken, who hammers one to right center field. This will be extra bases. Canseco gets it back into the infield, but not before Ripken has a one-out double.
Fifth double of the year for Cal Ripken. Pitch away from him, and he goes with it and drives it up the alley. The Red Sox were shaded around toward left center a bit, and Cal really jumps on this pitch. Up out over the plate, you can see he had the right center alley in his sights. Canseco plays it off the wall, gets it back to the cutoff man, and Ripken is at second with 1 out.
Surhoff at the plate. That's a breaking ball that Seeley doesn't get the call on. That one looks to be more over the plate than the one that Anderson took for a strike last inning. tied again, 2-0.
Really important for Surhoff to have this type of start. He's a free agent coming into a new team, first team other than the Brewers that he's played for, so he could have been in a real pressure-packed situation, but getting off that great start, comes in here and really makes a good name for himself early.
Good count for him here at 2-0. Seeley will look back at Ripken.
They've got a base open now and a right-handed hitter on deck, so Seeley has to really be aware to make a good pitch. You can't give anything to Surhoff right here. If he wants to chase a borderline pitch off the plate inside, go ahead, but you can't give in to him with Ripken at second.
The 2-0. Ball 3.
That looked like a changeup, something that you wouldn't really expect. A little movement off the plate outside. Don't expect him to be taking it. He's swinging the bat so well right now, I'm sure Davey Johnson will let BJ decide to hit the tape.
Ripken had to dive back in, but neither of the infielders within about 25 feet of the bag. Was better safe than sorry.
Seeley with a quick move, and Ripken won't take any chances.
The 3-0 pitch is high, ball 4. Coming up on Sunday Night Baseball, a good one for you. John Miller and Joe Morgan will be in Miami for the Dodgers and the Marlins. Gary Sheffield is off to a good start, 5 home runs. Mike Piazza picked up his first extra base hit of the season today. He's now got 23 hits, 22 singles, and a double. Dodgers and Marlins, a couple of the expected contenders in the National League.
You look at the National League home run leaders. Ryan Klesko at the top. Gary Sheffield, 5 home runs, off to a good start. They hope that Gary Sheffield can stay healthy for a full season. Al Nipper out to talk to his battery. Aaron Seeley, Bill Hassman. I want to make sure they've got their scouting report together on Chris Hoyles. Good candidate for a double play if Seeley can coax the ground ball out of it.
Two on, 1 out. Ripken's at second. He doubled to right center field. Surhoff then walked. Hoyles picked up an RBI on a fielder's choice. Back in the second inning. That was a close play. Should have been a double play. At least could have been a double play. Beltre's throw was high, pulled Mo Vaughn off the bag, and a run came in, and now Hoyles is mumbling to the home plate umpire.
Well, when you hit 121 to start a season, you mumble a lot. To yourself, to the umps, to everything else. How come he makes great pitches on me?
And how come it's always 0-2 on me?
Every time. Cut fastball to start, and then he comes with that big overhand curveball, and Hoyles takes a wild hack at it.
The 0-2. Breaking ball again. This one bounced in. Ball 2 strikes. Now Hoyles wants taking it. Take a look at that baseball.
Now the ball hit the dirt. You want to make sure that it didn't get scuffed up. Seeley's in the driver's seat right here. Ball is 2 strikes. He's got Hoyles to chase a couple of breaking balls on the outer part of the plate.
Fastball. Hoyles sends it down the right field line, back into the seats.
Royals with just a single home run this year. That was his 100th home run. Came off Jack McDowell here in this ballpark last week. Not a lot of power. And he's got a lot of power to right center. But right now, with 2 strikes, he's just trying to put the ball in play and stand up double play.
Outside with a curveball, 2-2. Ripken doubled, and Surhoff walked. Now a 2-2 count on Hoyles. And he sends this one the other way, not deep though. Canseco comes in and right. He'll make the catch, 2 down.
Jose's having a good time in right tonight. He's 2 for 2. Makes that little soft fly ball off the bat of Hoyle. See? I can play out here.
Well, you don't think he's hearing anything from the right field bleachers now, do you?
Everywhere he goes.
Tony Tarasco, the batter. Ball 1. Orioles with a 1-run lead, looking for more here, leading 2-1.
Tony Tarasco, like so many young hitters, is sitting on dead red. He loves to hit that fastball. Seeley is aware of this, and he's got that good hook as a weapon. I imagine it. Seeley's going to try to throw the cutter off the plate inside to him and set up that big curveball. You really don't like to challenge him with a fastball if you don't have to. Seeley frustrated that he didn't get the call on that breaking pitch to the outside.
If you're not getting the call with the breaking pitch, you go away from it, maybe where you wouldn't have in the past.
No, he's got to still throw it. It's his bread and butter pitch. He's just got to hope that he starts to get it called when it's on the corners. Here's where Tarasco really looks fastball.
And he popped it up back of the plate. Playable, and that's the inning. Hasselman makes the catch. Seeley gets out of it through 4 completed Camden Yards. The Orioles lead the Red Sox 2-1.
Foul to get going, but it seems as though they are ready to roll now. 1-5 straight, trying to make it 6.
Here's Esteban Beltre, second baseman tonight. Leading off the 5th inning for the Red Sox, Beltre has walked and scored Boston's only run of the game. They trailed the Orioles 2-1. After Beltre, Troy O'Leary, then John Valentin due up against Scott Erickson, who's given up 5 hits through 4, but has allowed just the 1 run. The 2-1. Erickson off the mound, has some time, and makes the play, 1 down. The road to the Stanley Cup continues tomorrow night on ESPN. The Canadiens and the Rangers, Montreal winning in overtime last night to take a 1-0 lead in the best-of-7 opening round series. Troy O'Leary, fly ball, left field. Hammonds over near the line in fair territory to make the catch, just like that, 2 outs. The big-time crowd at Camden Yards battling still temperatures that don't make you think that spring has arrived. There's talk of some snow flurries last night in the Baltimore area, and a lot of these teams just haven't been able to escape a cool April here to begin the season. Valentin, the batter, he's gone the other way for base hits twice on Erickson, and Erickson again starts him on the outside corner, strike 1.
Jim Rice has given the Red Sox a good game plan. There's Al Nipper and Aaron Seeley talking about the hitters who will face the next inning, possibly.
Check swing, flare into the second row of seats down the right field line as Palmero. Bonilla gave chase. Bonilla really hasn't had anything to do out there. Canseco's at least had a couple of fly balls. All Bonilla's gotten to do is pick up some rolling base hits and throw them back into the air.
Now, this is his first start in the outfield this year, and he said, I just want to get out there and feel a part of the game. He's a National Leaguer at heart. He feels like DH is just like doing half your job. David Johnson has said, hey, we're going to use a roving DH.
Carrasco is the man tonight. Mike Devereaux is another guy that Davey Johnson wants to work into the lineup eventually, get him some at-bats. When the days get hotter and the off days disappear. 2-2 lifted into shallow center field. On comes Brady Anderson. An easy one-handed catch and an easy 3-up, 3-down inning for Scott Erickson. Orioles still lead 2-1. Slashed foul.
That swing right there is what gets the Orioles excited when they talk about Jeffrey Hammonds, his ability to get to that breaking ball on the outside part of the plate. Most young hitters come into the league and they don't have this kind of coverage. Watch how he gets to this pitch.
The 2-2 from Seeley, and he gets Hammonds with a curveball. Aaron Seeley now with 3 strikeouts on the night.
That was a big curveball, and Seeley has had good command of that all night long.
Top of the order for Brady Anderson. A strikeout and a base hit in 2 trips tonight for Anderson. Takes it low, 2-0. Anderson, if this is the best Baltimore team he's been on since he got here, and he's one of the senior members on this team right now. He said, I can't tell you that. I'm only 2 weeks into the season. I said, in October, I might be able to tell you that. But he didn't want to get carried away, and he knows how easily fans and the media and teams that have gotten off to good starts can get carried away. As he'll take the walk. He probably watched the Cleveland Indians coming to town after they lost their first 3 games. The expectations were so high and the reality a little bit different. And Davey Johnson has managed some very good teams. He knows that you've got to kind of temper things and realize that this is a 6-month marathon.
It's so easy to get excited about a fast start like the Orioles have gotten off to here, but Brady Anderson was very wise in his decision not to talk about how good this team is. You got to see how they play together and how they handle adversity, how they handle slumps. We're going to see something happen in this at bat. Alomar at the plate, Anderson at first base. They're liable to start the runner here. Big hole on the right side, and Alomar can pull the ball right into that hole.
Anderson not going. Alomar shows bunt and takes ball 2-0.
Well, now Alomar's got everybody thinking about something here. Al Nipper is quickly out of the Red Sox dugout. Hasselman was in front. Nipper wants to make sure that they're not distracted by the base runner at first base. Got a tough hitter at the plate in Alomar. Let's make sure we're really focused on this at bat. Make your pitch, make a decision on your pitch, and deliver it. Red Sox aren't in any position to make any kind of mistakes. And down by a run and don't want to fall further behind.
Count for a good hitter. One down, Anderson at first. Two and one.
Well, you can see Alomar really sizing up this infield here. He gets a sign from Perlazo. Watch his eyes. Looks down to third, sees Tatum back. Looks down to third again. He's still back. Okay, now I can try a bunt. That's the right pitch he wanted. And he still looks down the third to make sure Tatum is still back there. Now Tatum's in, even with the bag.
3-1, another close pitch. Goes against Aaron Seeley. Can't win with mistakes. Seeley probably feeling like he can't win, period. Not getting any of the calls tonight. Again, a good hitter's count. 3 balls and a strike. Anderson goes. Alomar bunts. Seeley will play it to first, and on the head-first slide, Alomar is safe. Orioles at first and second.
Now Nipper just got off the phone. They're going to get something going in their bullpen. Robbie Alomar, a 3-1 count. He still sees an opportunity to get something going here. Anderson is on the move. Seeley quickly over off the mound, but Alomar with a head-first slide beats the throw at first base. He's always looking for offensive opportunities.
Anderson at second. Alomar at first. One down, and the dangerous Rafael Palmeiro, the batter. Orioles with a 1-run lead. 2-1, bottom of the 5th. They are 0 for 6 tonight. Baltimore with runners in scoring position. And now it's an 0-2 count on Palmeiro and a big curveball from Seeley.
Seeley continues to use that curveball. Palmeiro gave up on that pitch, and then it broke and caught the outside half of the plate.
Now he didn't waste one.
Right-hander Mike Maddox begins to throw for the Red Sox.
Anxious Kevin Kennedy looking on. Feeling the weight of a 6-game losing streak and 2 Oriole runners on base. Fastball, and he got it. 2 down.
Seeley didn't have an overpowering fastball, but as a hitter, when you see a couple of real good curveballs, you have that in the back of your mind, and you're late on the fastball. Good sequence by Aaron Seeley as he gets a crucial strikeout of Rafael Palmeiro. Twice tonight he's struck out Palmeiro.
The inning far from over, though, for Seeley, with Bobby Bonilla the batter.
Play Bonilla to pull on the right side, move on right on the line. Beltre way over toward the hole. Lots of room up the middle for Bonilla.
Base hit, right center field. It'll roll to the track. Anderson is in. Alomar getting the wave. The throw home is not in time. A two-run double for Bobby Bonilla. And the Orioles lead 4-1.
A very difficult part of the lineup to wade through this Orioles attack is post 1 through 9. Bobby Bonilla with a two-out double. Trying to get the ball away from him, and it catches too much of the plate. He drives it up the alley in right center. Canseco on the run. O'Leary cuts it off, but all the while, Anderson and Alomar come in to score.
Now Cal Ripken, who doubled his last time up. How do you know things are going well? You're 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. You've got a 3-run lead. That hit by Bonilla, the first time that the Orioles have really cashed in tonight. They do it with 2 outs in the inning.
You know you're going to have a good season. Last night, Palmeiro, Bonilla, and Ripken were 0 for 11. Tonight, Bonilla comes up with a 2-run double. There's a lot of offense in this lineup. You can shut down the heart of the order, and other guys are there to pick you up. Anderson walked, Alomar with a bunt single, and then after a Palmeiro strikeout, Bobby Bonilla comes through with that 2-out double. This lineup's going to have a lot of pitchers in the American League talking to themselves.
The 1-1. Taking ball high. On the other side of the field, though, a team with a big expectations, the defending American League East Division champs, 1995 MVP Mo Vaughn, Canseco, tons of power, tons of talent, but a loss tonight to the Boston Red Sox will be off to the worst start in franchise history. Considering these are the Red Sox, that's saying something for like the time they've been around.
And they'll fall 9.5 behind the Orioles. 10 games in the loss column. That's tough to make up. Mo Vaughn said before the ball game, this was a huge game for them. To stop the skid, to gain some confidence, win tonight, win tomorrow, get out of Baltimore and go into Cleveland with a little bit of optimism.
Seeley trying to work out of it. Ripken the batter. Finally got a call on a pitch that appeared to be further outside than many of those that were called balls. Ripken's furious, but the Orioles lead. A 4-1 Orioles lead. Cal Ripken still stewing over a called third strike. Don Denkinger is far from the most popular man in the ballpark tonight, but the hometown Orioles still have a lead heading to the top of the 6th inning. Scott Erickson has done a nice job tonight for Baltimore. Mo Vaughn leads off the inning and lines one to left. Jeffrey Hammonds brings it in 1 down.
Now, Cal Ripken, you can see he's still frowning and mumbling to himself. This is the last pitch of last inning. Don Denkinger rings up Cal Ripken, and he is very upset. He thought that ball was outside. You don't see Cal Ripken display his emotions very often, but he is very upset being called out.
Well, usually when an umpire say that if everybody's angry at him, he's doing a good job, but I don't know if that applies tonight. The first half applies. Everybody's angry at him. Look at Cal Ripken. This is a guy who's only been kicked out twice in 14 years, and he's still mumbling under his breath. Now he's got to play a Canseco grounder, has time. Canseco not exactly flying down the line. 2 down. Here's Carl Ravitch.
Hi, Dan. Thanks very much. We go to Texas. That's where Baltimore heads next, and they'll be watching this guy, Pudge Rodriguez. Little off target, but it's good for a double. Stillwell and Elster both score. Carlos Reyes is getting rocked. It is 7-0, and he is pitching now in the top of the 4th.
Texas Rangers off to a great start. Looking for their 10th win tonight.
2 quick outs for Erickson in the 6th. Erickson is now set down 7 in a row. Mike Greenwell with that. The 1-0. Outside for ball 2. As a catcher, when you're in one of these games and you really aren't sure what's going to be a strike, what's going to be a ball, what can you do? Frame pitches a little longer, and you talk to the ump. Pick it up in the next half inning. Ground ball down to second. Alomar throws out Greenwell. 8 in a row set down by Erickson. A 6-pitch inning, and the Orioles lead by 3. Those Orioles just keep rolling along, leading Boston 4-1. Bottom of the 6th inning here at Camden Yards. Aaron Seeley still on the mound. Mike Maddox has been up and working as B.J. Surhoff leads it off. Surhoff to be followed by Hoyles and Tarasco. They'll be out of play. Down and in, 2-1.
He's done a good job keeping this Red Sox team in the game. The 2-out double to Bobby Bonilla really proved costly, as now they're 3 runs down, but he didn't have much support. He's held the Orioles to 5 hits.
Right center field. O'Leary will make the catch on a knee as he and Canseco converge from the center fielder as it went down.
You think O'Leary was thinking a little bit about that great big right fielder?
Here comes a freight train.
He wasn't real sure where Canseco was, and he wanted to make sure that he didn't get in his way. Watch how, look how tentative he is. Oh, I'm going to go down here and make this catch and hope that big guy. He says, listen, I'm all right. I won't run into you. Yeah, but I don't want to take any chances.
Ground ball left side. Long throw for Valentin, and he will gun out. Chris Hoyles, 2 down in the inning. Last year, the Red Sox used 53 players, and it worked. They won the East. This year, a lot of new faces again having trouble meshing. The Orioles have had no trouble bringing in their new faces. Here's one of them. Tony Tarasco picked up in a deal from Montreal for Sherman Abando.
Tarasco hasn't gotten too many fastballs from Seeley tonight. That was a cut fastball, on his hands. I tell you, you've got a pretty good attack when your 8 and 9 hitters are Carrasco and Hammonds, a couple of young guys with a lot of offensive potential. There's a fastball, one he was looking for, but it was right in on his hands and caught the inside corner. Now you can bet he's going to get some kind of breaking ball here.
Seeley looking for a 3-up, 3-down inning. This is outside, 1-2. Bounced it in. Came up and hit Hasselman in the mask. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Big curveball. That's why you wear that mask.
The 2-2 pitch. Full count. These 2 teams will wrap up the series tomorrow afternoon. Scheduled pitchers Mike Messina, Jamie Moyer. Outside, ball 4. Seeley had him 0-2, and now Tarasco draws the walk.
Well, the Red Sox, worst in the majors in giving up the free passes. The other side of that point is the Orioles. They're the best in the big leagues. And I think the Red Sox pitchers are pretty gun-shy with that defense behind them, trying to be real fine. Maddox should be ready and up to throwing.
Seeley to face Hammond with 2 down and Carrasco at first. Ground ball, third base. Tatum gets him. And the Orioles are done in the 6th. So Seeley does his job, but he needs a little help from the offense. The Red Sox still trail by 3.
ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Red Wing Shoe Company, America's first choice for durable, comfortable footwear.
Into the 7th inning we go at Camden Yards. The Orioles leading the Red Sox 4-1 behind a strong effort from starter Scott Erickson. And look at the way he has made the most of very few pitches the last 2 innings. 16 to get the last 6 outs. There's one guy who's had some success against him tonight, Reggie Jefferson. Getting his first start of the season, a couple of base hits. He's now 3 for 4 on the season. But if the losses continue to pile up for the Red Sox, what do? What moves can they make, given the roster and the money that they've already spent?
Yeah, they're pretty stuck with the people they have. Of course, you're not going to make any changes with Mo Vaughn, but they don't have too many options. Seiko is going to be DH or possibly in right field all year long.
Is Kevin Kennedy's job in a little bit of jeopardy if the Red Sox lose tonight? Fall to 2-12, and you mentioned it doesn't get any easier after Baltimore. Cleveland's the next stop.
Now, I don't know if he's in a situation where he's really got the win quickly. I mean, they obviously have high expectations and made a big investment financially for the Red Sox to try to win the East again.
Now we've got the 1996 NFL Draft for you on ESPN. Wall-to-wall coverage beginning Saturday at noon and running right through to 7 p.m. Back with you again Sunday morning. Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Craig James, and a cast of thousands will be in New York, New York. See the future stars of the NFL, the New York Jets, with the first pick as it stands right now. So there will be a lot of local reaction one way or the other, no matter what the Jets do. To the new hometown of the Baltimore Ravens, who have the 4th pick, I believe, in the first round. Ravens doesn't sound like a football team.
Yeah, the first time I heard it, I had to really stop and think of the Ravens.
You got Bears, you got Ravens. Doesn't sound like a fair fight.
What happened to Colts? I don't know why they don't break that out again.
We'd have to talk to Indy. It's like a little football weather here in the middle of April. 2-2. On the batter, Bill Hasselman. Reggie Jefferson down at first after a walk. Looking for his 2nd win of the season. Full count now to Hasselman. There's been some activity in the Baltimore pen. Roger McDowell, Jesse Orozco have gotten up. The right-handed and left-handed setup man. What a job the Orioles bullpen has done behind a great rotation this year. Ground ball to short. Ripken doesn't get anybody. Cal Ripken with a hard hit ball to short, thinking about starting the double play, does not get anyone. E6.
Just the second air of the air for Cal Ripken. He got ahead of himself. Taylor made double play ball. He bobbles it, then finally gets it. But Jefferson hustling all the way down to second base, slides ahead of the throw. You see that ball was right there. He initially missed it when he went to grab it again for the force out. He couldn't find the handle.
He's upset with himself and Don Denkinger. And let's see if the Red Sox can take advantage of a rare mistake by the Orioles. Jim Tatum is the batter. He'll take inside ball one. Erickson's control seems to have deserted him just a little bit here in the 7th inning.
Well, he's getting the ball up, too. That's a problem. We talked about how he had worked so quickly through these middle innings with very few pitches, and all of a sudden here in the 7th, the ball's starting to creep up into the danger zone. Got that one back down where he wanted it. Orioles picked that thing off the phone. Davey Johnson won't go an awful long time with Erickson. He's got the best bullpen in the American League out there, and he's got him ready.
Jefferson at second, Hasselman at first. Jim Tatum represents the game's tying run. 1 ball, 2 strikes as he fouls it out of play. There are some bats on the Boston bench. Should Kevin Kennedy think about a pinch hitter? There's the biggest bat right there. Kevin Mitchell can't play the field, but he can pinch hit if he's called upon. Base hit left field. Jefferson will stop at third, and the Red Sox have the bases loaded with nobody out.
Well, you don't get too many opportunities when Cal Ripken makes an error, but the Red Sox are trying to take advantage here. Nobody out in the 7th. Davey Johnson right by the bullpen phone. Here comes Will Cordero out on the on-deck circle, swinging a bat. He's going to come on as a pinch hitter.
For the Red Sox, batting for Esteban Beltre, number 12, Will Cordero.
Here comes Davey Johnson, not wasting any time at all. He's called for Roger McDowell.
Scott Erickson is done. After 6 innings plus 3 batters, the game is close in Baltimore. Scott Erickson leaves with a lead, but leaves the bases loaded with nobody out here in the 7th inning at Camden Yards, but he will put his fate and a potential win in the hands of the best bullpen in the American League. Davey Johnson has had some reliable arms this year. Look at that. The 6 relievers have combined to allow just 1 earned run in 28 1/3 innings pitched. Roger McDowell has a spotless record so far at 96, and he's out there to try to keep these 3 runs from coming across.
Well, if he works this entire inning, it'll be his 1,000th major league inning. Roger McDowell with a great sinker ball keeps the ball on the ground. And right now, the Orioles would love another opportunity to turn 2. They'll concede a run for a double play in this situation anytime. Defensively, they'll play for the double play. Bases are loaded in this situation. Nobody out for the pinch hitter, Will Cordero.
Cordero, acquired in the offseason, struggling here in the American League, but he's got some first-hand knowledge of Roger McDowell from their National League days. 2 for 7 lifetime against McDowell. Pinch hitting for Esteban Beltre, who was playing second base in Cordero's spot tonight. Cordero believes more because of his struggles with the bat than the glove. Pull himself out of those struggles and maybe lift his whole team with a base hit here.
10 for 34 with the bases loaded. He hit a grand slam off Joey Hamilton in San Diego back in '94.
Jefferson, Hasselman, Tatum on the bases. A Cal Ripken error figures very heavily into this inning. Had a chance to turn a double play. They didn't get anybody. Then a Tatum base hit loaded the bases.
Ripken would love another ground ball.
The 2-0. Tough spot for Cordero, just 24 years of age. Trying to find his way with a new team. You mentioned about B.J. Surhoff coming over, fitting in, becoming a part of the team. Cordero, I'm sure, wants to win the respect of his teammates.
Well, when you join a new ball club, that's the first thing you want to do. Have success so you'll be taken in by your new ball team. Cordero had just the opposite happen. He's really had a struggle.
Lined into left center field, a base hit. 1 run is in, and now Hasselman rounds third. He will score as the throw comes into second. That'll help Cordero's spirits a little bit. And the Red Sox are back within 1 at 4-3.
Two of Erickson's runs come in there. First pinch hit for the Red Sox this year. It's a big one. A good pitch by McDowell. A sinker down and in, but Cordero drives it over Ripken's head into center. 2 runs come in on the play. Tatum scampers back to second. Still nobody out for the Red Sox.
And of all things, a Ripken error, perhaps opening the door for the Red Sox tonight. Tatum up to second, signaling back to Cordero at first. Nobody out. The batter is Troy O'Leary. Going on the infield.
B.J. Surhoff was charging, expecting O'Leary to put down a bunt. Lots of things going on in the infield now. B.J. Surhoff hollering instructions to the pitcher. Alomar and Ripken talking to one another. Palmeiro in at first base. They're still looking for the bunt.
They won't get it. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tim Johnson, the bench coach, going through the signs, passing them along to third base coach Dave Oliver.
The 1-1, and again O'Leary is swinging. A ball and 2 strikes.
It's an interesting approach here to have Larry swing away and not bunting. When you consider that you got Valentin, Vaughn, and Canseco coming up next. But Kevin Kennedy probably thinking, hey, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to take a shot at a huge inning. But you could argue with Valentin coming up next, he's got a couple of hits already. Why not move the runners over? Second and third, 1 out. Then you got Valentin, Vaughn, and Canseco to take a whack at Roger McDowell.
Down low, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Roger McDowell on in relief of Scott Erickson. The lead has been cut to 1. 2 runs in, 2 on, and still nobody out on the Red Sox 7th. The 2-2. Ground ball right side. Palmeiro bobbles it. The bases are loaded as the Orioles, at least for this inning, have done what the Red Sox have been doing all season long.
2 of the best fielders at their position in the American League, Ripken and now Palmeiro, have booted balls in this inning to give the Red Sox an opportunity. That's got a chance to be 2, but Palmeiro could never come up with it. It finally bounces to Ripken, but not in time for the force at second. Strange things happening here at Camden Yards in the 7th. Look at the Orioles, just 9 errors compared to the Red Sox 21.
And Erickson sees the potential of a second win slipping away here. Bases loaded, nobody out. John Valentin will take a strike. Strike. Now McDowell with a Bit of a long look in toward Denkinger, and Davey Johnson and his club hanging on with a 1-run lead here in the 7th. Fly ball hit into left field, not deep at all. In charge is Hammonds. And he's practically in the infield when he makes the catch. Tatum can't go anywhere. 1 down.
First baseman.
Just a lazy pop-up into shallow left. Well, Mo Vaughn said, I got to be the man that steps up. And he's going to get an opportunity now, but he's going to have to face the left-hander, Jesse Orozco. Davey Johnson's out, made the call.
7th inning, 1-run game. Orozco to face Mo Vaughn when we come back. Very big moment for the Red Sox, trailing by 1. Bases loaded. Mo Vaughn is the hitter, and he knows he'll have to come up big to help the Sox get out of it.
I know as being a leader on this ball club that I got some things that I got to do to make some things happen. But first and foremost, if it's not there, you can't try to make too much happen. You just got to try to go out and occupy a base at some point in time and get people in the field of the game. But, you know, I'm conscious of it. You know, I'm not going to run from it. I think, you know, I'm going to go after it and try to go get it and try to get us back where we need to be.
The table is set for Mo Vaughn. Unfortunately, it's a serving that he doesn't like very much. Against Jesse Orozco, he's 0 for 12. Orozco on here, and as we mentioned, the bullpen has been very good. Jesse Orozco in 3 games has picked up a win. Just an inning and 2/3, he's become a specialty pitcher, coming into ball games to face the nasty left-handers in the opposing lineup. And he's got the nastiest of them at the plate right now in Mo Vaughn with the bases loaded.
1 down in the inning. There are the numbers Buck referred to. Mo Vaughn has had no success against Jesse Orozco over the course of his career. He'd even take the fly ball here to tie up the game. 2 errors by the Orioles in this inning. 1 by Ripken, 1 by Palmeiro. Have opened the door for the Red Sox, who will take any break they can get to end an ugly 6-game slide.
Orozco has developed a big sweeping breaking ball that's become very effective for him against left-handed hitters.
Taking his time, getting comfortable out there. Now sets. Bases loaded. A 1-run game, the Orioles lead. Up and into Mo, ball 1.
Look on Mo Vaughn is you can pound him inside, but you better not let it drift out over the plate any. He's got good coverage away from him.
The 1-0. Outside and low. 2 balls and no strikes.
Orozco slipped after that delivery. Took a long time getting comfortable on the mound, and then he unloaded that pitch and launched his footing on the follow-through. Red Sox are looking for a big hit to get this early season turned around.
Already 8.5 games back of the Orioles. Just 13 games into the season. Outside 3-0, and Orozco is a pitch away from walking in the tying run, and Armando Benitez is heating up in a hurry. The hard-throwing right-hander getting loose. Perhaps with Jose Canseco in his sights. Canseco's on deck. The green light again.
Yep.
The bases Jackson sees a potential win disappear. And Davy Johnson might make Jesse Orozco disappear here. Armando Benitez has been warming, and that's the call. Orozco throws 4 pitches, all balls. Benitez, Canseco, power against power when we come back. There will be no victory for Scott Erickson tonight. He left with a 3-run lead, but the bases loaded. All 3 runs came in to score. And errors played a key part. Double play ball. Cal Ripken can't get a handle. The Orioles don't get anybody. Now a grounder to Palmeiro. They try to start a potential double play again. They can't get anybody. The Orioles turning into the Red Sox here in the 7th inning. A tie game. Jesse Orozco has walked in a run. It's 4-4. Bases loaded. 1 out. And a potential great matchup here with one of the hardest throwing hitters in the game, Armando Benitez, coming on in relief to face the big-time Boston slugger, Jose Canseco.
Benitez won in relief on Saturday against the Twins. He came in and retired all 4 batters he faced, but he's got his hands full right now. His powerful Jose Canseco. Benitez, hard thrower. It's power against power here. Fastball slider. That's what Canseco can look for.
These are the fun matchups.
The Orioles have a very well-balanced bullpen. Good combination of finesse and power. Benitez had some elbow problems in the spring, and they felt it was because of the split finger pitch. So since then, he's not allowed to throw it. Fastball slider. Country hardball. Here it is.
He's only worked twice. He's faced 7 batters, retiring all of them, 5 by strikeouts. Seiko lays off ball 2, 2-1.
That's the ball you really have to fight to lay off of, because it looks so inviting when it starts out about your belt, and then as it works its way up to your letters, you can't get on top of it.
Down low, and now Benitez with a 3-1 count on Canseco. Remember, Orozco walked Mo Vaughn to force in the tying run. Benitez is a pitch away from walking in the go-ahead run. Bases loaded for the Red Sox. Cordero, O'Leary, and Vaughn. And Canseco wanting to bring him home. Popped it up, back out of play.
Big swing from Canseco. 3-1 fastball. Got in on him a bit. Looks like another shot at that one. Bet you he gets another one, huh? Give it up a notch. Here it comes.
Big moment in the game and a big moment here in the early season for the Boston Red Sox. Canseco chased ball 4 and got a piece of it to stay alive, and he knows he chased ball 4.
Now, you got to get your bat going against Benitez because he throws so hard. This ball was down around the knees, out of the strike zone. He was lucky to get a piece of it. Believe me, he's not thinking about one ribby. He's thinking about major damage with all 3 bases loaded here.
Full count pitch. Fly ball, very high left field. It'll stay in the park for Hammonds. He makes the catch, struggles to do so. Coming in to score on the play is Cordero, and the Red Sox have taken the lead on a monstrous sacrifice fly by Canseco, hit as high as a ball can go.
Man, did he just miss this thing. Big swing. He got under it. No doubt about it being a sacrifice fly, but the frustration of missing a grand slam just by a fraction of an inch.
Still a couple on for the Red Sox. O'Leary at second, Mo Vaughn at first. Now 2 down in the inning. The batter is Mike Greenwell, the 9th hitter this inning for the Red Sox. He'll take ball 1 from Benitez. Three of 4 runs this inning are unearned because of the 2 Baltimore errors, one by Ripken, one by Palmeiro. 2-0. Roger McDowell came on in relief of Scott Erickson. Bases loaded. Nobody out. Didn't get any help from the defense. Orozco then came in to face just 1 batter. Mo Vaughn, he walked him. That forced in a run. Scott Erickson left with a 3-run lead. He cannot win it. 5-4. The Red Sox now lead. Their first lead of the night here in the 7th inning. 3 balls, no strikes.
The sacrifice fly, but he just missed a grand slam home run and would have broken this game wide open.
A 4-pitch walk to Greenwell has loaded the bases again.
The first time this year the Orioles bullpen has struggled. Pat Dobson with his long, slow walk out to the mound. There's no one warming up in the Orioles bullpen behind Benitez. McDowell came in, gave up a single to the first batter he faced, pinch hitter Will Cordero. Then he threw what looked to be another double play ball that Palmeiro booted. Jesse Orozco walked Mo Vaughn to force in a run. And Scott Erickson is the man that really got the short end of the stick. He had retired 8 in a row to start the inning, and then he walked the leadoff batter, Reggie Jefferson. And then it looked like he had a double play ball hit to the shortstop.
Bases loaded again this inning. Jefferson the batter against Benitez. And Reggie Jefferson's been a guy that the Orioles haven't been able to keep off base so far tonight. The 1-0.
Aaron Seeley's had a long inning on the bench. I'm sure he doesn't mind, given the struggles the offense has had scoring runs.
Reggie Jefferson tried to extend this inning a little bit more. 4 runs in. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Fouled out of play.
Kevin Kennedy was in a mindset to shake up the lineup. He made some dramatic changes tonight, putting Canseco in the outfield, pulling Cordero out of the lineup, putting Reggie Jefferson in at the DH spot. And so far, everything has worked because he had Cordero on the bench to use him as a pinch hitter, and he came through with a 2-run single.
Bounces away. Not far enough, though. O'Leary had thoughts of scampering home.
This looks like a split finger pitch from Benitez, and it is. It's a surprise because they wanted him not to throw it because of his elbow. They felt it put a lot of strain on his elbow. Maybe the strain of this inning caused him to break it out again.
Shakes off his catcher twice. Now sets with the 2-2. Fastball No contest. He strikes out Jefferson, but the Red Sox score 4 times and now lead the Orioles 5-4.
Marlins and the Braves. Greg Maddux left this game down 2-0 and figuring he was going to get a second loss of the season, but back come Atlanta. Chipper Jones down the line and right. It brings in 2. Grissom and Lemke both score, so Maddux figure he had the loss. Instead, he gets the win. Atlanta 4, the Marlins 2. Speaking of rallies, you got one.
Well, here in Baltimore, Carl, maybe Aaron Seeley figured he would have a loss, and now he's in line for a win. The Red Sox leading 5-4. This pitching summary is brought to you by Sherwin-Williams Paint and Wallpaper Stores. Aaron Seeley will not come out for the 7th inning. He'll leave having given up 4 runs through 6. Scott Erickson deserved better. His defense let him down, and that is the main reason he will not pick up a win tonight.
Lieutenant Mike Stanton comes on to work the bottom of the 7th inning. This will be his 7th game already, 5 1/3. He's allowed 7 hits. But he is in a situation right now where he's trying to protect a 1-run lead. Will Cordero with a big pinch hit to drive in 2, takes over defensively at second base.
The Red Sox will work from a position they haven't really had the chance to get used to very often this season. The lead. 5-4 Boston. Brady Anderson swings through the first offering from Stanton.
Will Cordero has had a lot of problems defensively with 6 errors, and I really find it interesting how shallow he is at second. I know Anderson runs well, and he's probably trying to protect against a swinging bunt or a drag bunt, but I think he could take a step or 2 back and give himself a little more range. He is just now trying to learn the position. He's a natural shortstop.
Inside, 3-1. The last thing that Kevin Kennedy wants to see is his team take a lead and then put the leadoff guy on the other team right on base to start the next inning.
Talked to the Red Sox before the game. To a man, most of them said every aspect of our game needs to be picked up. Not only defense, but the pitchers have walked too many. The hitters haven't gotten key hits. Mo Vaughn with a sac fly. Actually had a walk with the bases loaded to drive in a run in that inning. He had a chance. Fonseca had the sac fly.
Full count pitch. Hit fair down to first. Mo Vaughn has it, 1 down. Let's get an update in the studio. Here's Carl Ravitch.
Hi, Dan. You talk about the Orioles' middle relief, usually reliable. Elsewhere, middle relief has been a big problem, and in Cleveland, no exception. Pat Mears, 2nd of the year. They were down 7-2. The Twins score 3 in the 5th. They have gotten 4 in the 6th, and they are still at bat. It's 9-7 Minnesota. Dan?
All right, Carl, good to see Marty Cordova back in there hitting a home run. He missed a week's worth of games with a strained abdominal muscle, but back in there for Minnesota. Close game there, and a close game here as well. 5-4 Red Sox, 7th inning. Roberto Alomar takes a strike from Mike Stanton. Alomar turning around to hit right-handed.
This is the weaker of Alomar's 2 sides. Never really had an awful lot of success from the right side. He said it's just because he doesn't get enough regular at-bats. This time he got him.
And he's hit one a long way to left field, into the corner, and gone. Greenwell gave it an effort, but couldn't come up with the ball, and Roberto Alomar has tied the game.
Robbie Alomar has a unique knack for getting the type of hit that you need. Right there from the right side, he looks for an inside fastball. Takes one look at Greenwell, knows he's got just about enough distance. Greenwell makes a leap for it, but it goes beyond his outstretched glove. Mike Stanton can't believe it. He didn't think that ball was going to get out.
And suddenly the game is tied at 5. Second home run of the season for Roberto Alomar. Crowd back into it here. One down. Palmeiro takes away 2-0. Stanton has had his troubles so far this year, and he's heading into the heavy hitters part of the order. Palmeiro, then Bonilla, then Ripken potentially this inning. Palmeiro skies one to left. Greenwell in. 2 down. Coming up next, well, maybe expect some more fireworks in the second half of our ESPN Wednesday night doubleheader. Detroit and Seattle from the Kingdom. Cecil Fielder leading the majors with 9 home runs right now, trying to set an all-time baseball record. Again, Griffey Jr., no slouch himself, with 5 in the early going for Seattle. Bobby Bonilla sends one deep left field. Greenwell on the track makes the catch. And that'll retire the side, but the Orioles have tied it up. Roberto Alomar homers through 7. It's a 5-5 game.
ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball is brought to you by Lennox. For the finest in home heating and cooling, Lennox. One less thing to worry about.
Roberto Alomar homers, his second of the season in the bottom of the 7th, and the Orioles, who trailed 5-4, didn't trail for long. Mike Stanton gave it up and was hit hard by Bonilla, who took Mike Greenwell back to the track, and another lead slips away. This time it's for the Red Sox. Top of the 8th in a tie game.
Really tough on Mike Stanton after his club down on the board for 4 in the 7th to take a lead. He comes out and gives it right back. Very, very tough inning for the left-hander. When you're struggling to score runs and haven't had too many leads. Remember, this team has won just twice.
There are 7 pitchers in the American League who have more wins individually than the Red Sox have as a team. Bill Hasselman leading off, trying to change all that. Goes after a high fastball, skies it left side, and out of play. Doubly important for the Red Sox because they've got to get up tomorrow and face Mike Messina tomorrow afternoon. Based on the way he's throwing the ball in the early season, that's about as rough as things can get this side of Randy Johnson.
Messina has really been great so far this year. Great control, real dominant pitcher. Last time out, he 2-hit the Indians. Batters hitting 173 against them. You need to scratch and claw tonight and try to win this one. As you know, you got your hand full tomorrow.
A 2-2 count on Hasselman leading off the Boston 8th. Into left field, a base hit. First hit of the night for Hasselman and the Red Sox, showing that they're not just going to go away here in the midst of a 6-game losing streak. They've got the potential go-ahead run at first.
Kevin Kennedy contemplating his options here. Does he want a pinch run for Hasselman? Going to save some of his moves, maybe. Hopefully, if he can get to second base, then he might think about it.
Second half of the doubleheader, the Tigers and Mariners. Coming up next from the Kingdome, Dwayne Stats, Dave Campbell are there. Plenty of baseball still to come here from Camden Yards, though. A tie game in the 8th. Jim Tatum, the batter, with Bill Hasselman at first, nobody out.
Tatum had a big hit in the 7th inning, a single that loaded the bases. B.J. Surhoff in at third base looking for a bunt.
Popped up to Palmeiro. One down.
Fundamentals, boy, they're essential. Cubs scratching to win a ball game. Get the leadoff batter on, and then the bunt attempt turns into a line drive out. Tatum squares around. It's a fastball, but you can see he got underneath it, pops it right to Palmeiro.
That'll bring up Will Cordero. As Buck mentioned, the big pinch hit, 2-run single last inning. Wired for his offense. Hasselman in the lead at first.
Benitez has to be thinking maybe a hit and run in this situation after the foiled bunt attempt.
Already the 4th pitcher of the night for the Orioles. Inside, 2 balls and no strikes. And behind the plate, Hoyle saying, easy, big fella.
Ripken getting some information from Robbie Alomar. Alomar knows Cordero. They both play against one another in Puerto Rico in the Winter Leagues, and Ripken's just getting some information from his double play partner. I talked to B.J. Surhoff before the game about who helps him out, positioning himself at third. I said, who helps you on the bench? He turned and pointed to number 8. He says, Cal does all of that from shortstop. Cal knows every hitter in the American League, and now with a National League hitter just coming over, he goes to Alomar, who's a very good student of hitters as well.
The 2-1. Grounded to Ripken. Backhands it to Alomar for 1. Back to first, and there's the Oriole defense that people here in Baltimore have come to expect. Heading to the bottom of the 8th. Ripken will lead it off in a 5-5 tie. Let's be back on here to work the bottom of the 8th inning.
And Stan Melinda comes on, working in his 5th game of this young season. ERA for relievers can get inflated by a rough inning. 4 1/3 so far, 4 hits. He's walked 5. That's a real problem for Melinda. He's generally around the plate with more consistency. But he was on the DL coming out of spring training. He had some tendonitis in his arm. He was activated on the 6th of April. Worked Sunday against the Indians. Good sinking fastball, sweeping slider, 3/4 delivery. He can be tough on right-handed hitters, and that's who he'll deal with here.
Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez with you with Camden Yards. A 5-5 game between the team with the best record of baseball, the Orioles, and the team with the worst record of baseball, the Red Sox. Cal Ripken try to extend those streaks a little bit further. Ripken has had a bit of a rough night. We showed you the error. The 2 errors led to 3 unearned runs in the Boston 7th. Ripken also had quite the argument with home plate umpire Don Denkinger, who on at least a half-dozen occasions has incurred the wrath of various players on the field for what they view as an inconsistent strike zone.
Look at the outfield defense. Troy O'Leary way over into right center. Ripken doubled up the alley in right center, and now Canseco and O'Leary are bunching that alley, trying to take that away from Ripken. By doing that, they've left a big gap in left center as Greenwell straight away.
He gets one there, he might have a triple.
He takes note of all this, you can bet. team like Alomar will look around at the defense, see where they're playing. Frank White moving the defense around even more. Canseco toward the line.
And O'Leary took 3 or 4 more steps toward right center field again, and that gap is just huge in left center.
There you see Greenwell straight away in left. O'Leary way on the right side of second base, and Canseco basically straight away in right. They really bunched him toward the alley in right center.
A 1-2 count from Belinda. Fly ball to left. Shallow. It'll fall. Ripken on his way to second as Valentin overran the ball, and it's a leadoff double for Cal Ripken.
Well, that's the way things have gone for the Red Sox. Belinda made a decent pitch. Ripken hit it off the end of the bat, and it falls down the line for a double. Right off the end of the bat, he pops it up. Valentin knows he's the only one that's got a shot at it. Greenwell's coming in from left field, and Ripken is thinking 2 all the way. Hustling into second base with a leadoff double is Cal Ripken. Kevin Kennedy in to talk about the options now. They've got B.J. Surhoff, a tough left-handed batter at the plate. Surhoff goes back to talk to his manager. That's Andy Etchebarren, the bench coach, behind Davy Johnson. Kennedy has delivered his message.
Belinda will stay to either face Surhoff or potentially, I guess, put Surhoff on. The right-hander is Mike Maddox. He's been up before. The left-hander is a former Oriole, Brad Pennington. The left-hander Stanton gave up the Alomar home run last inning that tied the game. And they will put Surhoff on. So the Orioles will have runners at first and second with nobody out, and a right-hand hitter in Chris Hoyles due up next.
Now, the reason they're going to pitch to Hoyles is Belinda's success against Hoyles. Hoyles is 0 for 8 against the Red Sox right-hander. So Kevin Kennedy, straight percentages, left-handed Surhoff, base open, put him on, work to Hoyles. You got to believe that Davy Johnson's aware that Hoyles has struggled against Belinda and will ask him to sacrifice in this situation.
Cal Ripken at second after a bloop double to lead it off. An intentional walk given to Surhoff. Hoyles steps in, 0 for 3 on the night with an RBI, and as you see, and as Buck mentioned, without any success in his career against the side-arming Stan Belinda.
These are the situations where the defense can really be exposed.
He squares and pops the bunt back.
When you have an opportunity to cash in a run or cut down the lead runner, good defensive clubs like Davey Anderson's Orioles will be aggressive on this play and sometimes go for that lead runner at third base. You wouldn't expect that same type of aggressive style from the Red Sox, who are struggling on defense right now. Kevin Kennedy's got to be hopeful they get it out and then deal with the next batter.
Hoyles squares again. He'll take ball 1. Two on, nobody out. Bottom of the 8th inning in a 5-5 game. Stan Belinda facing Chris Hoyles. Vaughn pinching in from first. Jim Tatum likewise from third. The middle infielders Valentin and Cordero conferring with one another. And he gets the bunt down. They'll play it to third. Tatum gets back in time, and they get the lead runner, Cal Ripken, at third.
Good play by Belinda and Tatum both. Belinda had responsibility of going to the third base line on a bunt. Hoyles didn't get it by the pitcher. That was his job. Take a look at the bunt by Hoyles. Down the line, but not far enough away from the pitcher. Belinda gets to it. Tatum retreats and gets back to the bag in time to force Ripken. Cal sees the bunt on the ground, hustles toward third, knows there's going to be a play there, but can't beat the toss from the pitcher.
Now one down, and the batter, Tony Tarasco. Surhoff at second, and Hoyles at first. The Orioles, given the start that they've had, have been doing a much better job than that, generally taking advantage of these opportunities. Just 1 for 11 with the runners in scoring position this evening. The Bonilla 2-run double in the 5th, the only hit they had. Runners in scoring position.
Tony Tarasco's reputation of being a good fastball hitter has spread quickly to the American League. And then behind in the count came with a slider. Another one missed away.
The 2-1 to Tarasco. And this is for ball 3.
Well, he still would throw him that fastball. You got to believe he's going to give it to him now. He's pitched himself into a jam, 3-1. Tarasco's sitting dead red right here.
Davey Johnson doesn't want any check swing tappers back to the mound in this situation. Now 2 on. They appeal. Strike 2. Down at third, says Tim Cheatham.
Took something off that pitch, too. It still wasn't a good fastball. Watch his bat. Yeah, he went. Good call by Sheeta down at third.
Full count.
Checking on B.J. Surhoff, see if he was on the move with the full count. Just 1 out.
He's the go-ahead run out at second. Full count pitch. Tarasco got a piece of it.
Still hasn't gotten that fastball.
Johnson knows a thing or two, both about Belinda and about his hitter here, Tarasco, both with National League experience. As he looks on from the Orioles dugout. Again, the 3-2. Speak with a Belinda who appears a little reluctant to come in with the next pitch.
I want to make sure that Belinda focuses on the hitter. He's the guy that's going to do all the damage in this situation, not B.J. Surhoff. Sure, you want to keep Surhoff close at second should Tarasco get a base hit, but you want to make sure that you focus in on the batter. Surhoff has gotten Belinda's attention at second. Hoyles the runner from first.
Full count pitch. Fly ball left center field. Greenwell is over to take charge and to make the catch. 2 down, and the runners go back. Greenwell came close to grabbing that Alomar shot that went just over the wall for a home run. Checking the charts now as Jeffrey Hammonds makes his way to the plate.
Orioles gets that bunt down and moves Ripken to third, Orioles might have the lead with that fly ball to left. But they could have walked Carrasco, worked the Hammond with the bases loaded.
And again, Belinda calls Hasselman out to the mound. What can be going on here?
Well, a little indecision about pitch selection, I'm sure. They have not had any problems with the signs right now. Sinking fastball, big sweeping slider, and a changeup. That's the pitch selection they have to work with. Remember, Jeffrey Hammond's, for a young guy, pretty good breaking ball hitter.
High ball one. But undoubtedly, this was the guy that the Red Sox feel they have to get, with Brady Anderson standing on deck. 2 on, 2 out, 5-5 game in the 8th. 1-1.
Hammond was looking for a breaking ball, but this one is inside, so he couldn't get after it. He's looking for something on the outer part of the plate.
Went after a low pitch and hits it to right field. Back goes Canseco, and he'll make the catch and retire the side. The Orioles threaten but do not score to the 9th in a tie game. When we come back to Baltimore, should be a good one between the Tigers and Mariners. Still some baseball to be played here. 5-5 in the 9th after Stan Belinda worked himself out of a jam.
Well, you can see the spirits in that Red Sox dugout are high. Belinda got himself out of a tough situation in the bottom of the 8th inning after giving up that leadoff double to Cal Ripken. Got Jeffrey Hammond to pop up to right. So we're going into the 9th, and the Orioles are going to feature their 4th pitcher of the night, 5th pitcher of the night. Check that. Randy Myers comes on. With the game tied at 5-all, they've gone to the closer in a non-save situation. Good numbers for Myers. 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. Greg Zahn comes on defensively. It's the 7th time that Zahn has come on as a defensive replacement for Chris Hoyle late in the ballgame.
And a pinch hitter as well for the Red Sox. Dwayne Hosey will hit for Troy O'Leary. Hosey, a switch hitter, replaces O'Leary, a left-handed hitter against the lefty Myers. Top of the 9th inning in Baltimore, a 5-5 game. Orioles led 4-1. Boston with 4 in the 7th, 3 unearned. Then an Alomar home run tied it again at 5, and that's where we are now in the 9th inning. Alomar's 2nd home run of the season tied the game. Dwayne Hosey getting his first pinch hitting assignment of the young season, a ball and 2 strikes.
Jeff Zahn gets ripped by this foul tip just above that protective pad on his right shoulder.
The 1-2. Got him.
Andy Myers is kind of a no-nonsense guy. He just comes right at you here. It's a high slider, but it's so hard that Hosey can't catch up to it. 1 batter, 1 strikeout.
Myers now to face the shortstop, John Valentin, with 1 down in the 9th. Valentin sends one the other way into the corner in right field, and it'll fall in a fair ball. Valentin on his way to 2nd as Bonilla gets the ball back in. And the Red Sox, with 1 out of the 9th, have a potential go-ahead run at 2nd base with Mo Vaughn coming up.
Valentin has been swinging the bat well all night long. Right there, that ball's away from him. He keeps it inside the foul line down in the right field corner. Bonilla plays it off the scoreboard. And Valentin has his 3rd hit of the night.
And the Orioles now have to contend with a runner at 2nd, 1 down, and Mo Vaughn, the hitter. base open, but the right-hand hitting Jose Canseco on deck. So the Orioles will go right after Vaughn. You know Jose wants to get another crack at it after coming oh so close to a grand slam his last time up.
With a good fastball and a good hard slider. Will come right at Mo Vaughn.
Big rip by Vaughn. 2-1, and now Valentin breaks for third, and he's there.
Greg Zahn is arguing it was a foul tip. But Valentin alertly moves over to third base. Vaughn still not sure. He's going to go talk to Denkinger again. Say, hey, Mo Vaughn fouled that ball off. Umpire said, no, he didn't. It just clanked off Zahn's glove, and he kind of nonchalants it. And watch Valentin's reaction. Very alertly going to third when he saw Greg Zahn very late coming out there. Zahn appealing that it was a foul tip. Didn't win that argument.
Inside on the corner. Looked inside off the plate, but instead it's strike two.
Boy, that ball looked like it may have caught the corner. Looked like it was a lot farther inside. Mo Vaughn didn't believe it. Didn't say anything to the umpire, but you can see what he felt about that pitch.
The 2-2. Vaughn hits a grounder. The infield has come in. Alomar will try to get the out at third, and he does.
You've got to make sure that ball is through the infield when the infield is drawn in. Alomar always alert. Alomar makes a good play, but so does B.J. Surhoff. Look how far B.J. is from third. But Alomar looks over there. Valentin had gone too far, and B.J. is right there for the throw. A very alert play on both parts. Valentin has to make sure that ball goes through the drawn-in infield, and Surhoff is right there to put the tag on it. Atta baby. Very alert play by both Alomar and Surhoff.
So now 2 out and just a runner at first. Mo Vaughn aboard on the fielder's choice. The batter is Jose Canseco. Two balls, no strikes. The Red Sox perhaps letting an opportunity slip away, although Canseco's got a good count here. Hasn't taken long at all for the Oriole fans to warm up to Roberto Alomar being on the home side. The home run to tie it. That play there. Last week, Alomar got thrown out at the plate in the first inning and got a huge ovation just for the hustle that he showed by trying to score all the way from first.
Well, he brings a different style of baseball to Camden Yards than they're used to. One that's based on speed.
A walk to Canseco, and Myers is not making things easy on himself here. First and second, and that'll bring Greenwell to the plate.
When you're going through what the Red Sox are going through, you have a tendency to try to force things. And Valentin was very anxious to score the go-ahead run. But with the drawn-in infield, he had to make sure that ball went through.
Greenwell fouls it back. Greenwell 0 for 3 with a walk tonight. First and second, 2 down, top of the ninth, and on deck, hoping to get a chance as a pinch hitter, Kevin Mitchell, who faced Randy Myers in a spring training game 3 weeks ago and homered on him.
Well, Kennedy would love for Mitchell to get a shot at Myers. guess you have to kind of be relaxed. Not much else you can do. Just change the lineup. Shaking up the defense.
The 1-1. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Greenwell.
Randy Myers held left-handed batters to a 130 average last year. And that's why he's able to get that sweeping slider to the outer part of the plate. And he throws it hard.
Ahead of Greenwell, 1-2. Trying to give the Orioles a chance to score a run and win it in the 9th. Greenwell lines one to second. A short hop for Alomar. Out at first is Greenwell. Alomar struggled to come up with it, then made a tough play, getting Greenwell, and the Orioles will have a chance to win it in the bottom of the 9th at Camden Yards. 5-5, bottom of the 9th inning here at Camden Yards. We will send you out to the Kingdome as soon as this game ends. Top of the 9th, a very close play. Mike Greenwell thought he'd beaten it out.
Alomar bobbles it. That makes it close at first base. Greenwell with the head first slide is out by about 6 inches. He doesn't think so. I was safe.
Hold them out. Tie game. Bottom of the 9th. Top of the order. Alomar is on deck. Brady Anderson is the hitter. Facing Boston reliever Stan Belinda. Brady Anderson homered in the 9th on Saturday to beat the Twins. This time he's popped it up. Underneath it is Valentin, 1 down. And that'll bring to the plate. He takes a look at the center fielder, Dwayne Hosey, who came off the pinch hit for Troy O'Leary. That'll bring to the plate, but a player with maybe more of a sense for the dramatic than anybody else around these days. Roberto Alomar. He homered to tie it in the 7th. As you mentioned, he has a knack for changing his swing, whether a base hit or a home run are called for, and has an uncanny knack at coming through.
He had 17 home runs in '93 for the Blue Jays. And he's the type of hitter that can mold his game for several spots in the lineup. He can lead off, he can bat second, third. He's hit 6th.
Ball and 2 strikes now. Tatum at third, still not backing up very much. He's still inside the bag on Alomar. Guarding the lines on the infield, too, are the Red Sox with 1 down here in the 9th. The Boston Red Sox try to snap a 6-game losing streak. They're an ugly 2-11. Lost tonight. The Red Sox will be off to the worst start in their history. Send out a play left side.
Mo Vaughn put an awful lot of importance in a Red Sox win here tonight. He said, we got to get this thing stopped and stopped quickly. They've lost 6 in a row.
Base hit, right field, Roberto Alomar. He is 3 for 5 tonight.
Belinda had gone away, and then he comes inside, and look how quickly Alomar gets to it. It might have been off the plate inside, but he dropped the head on it, pulled it through the right side, and has himself a 1-out hit. Kevin Kennedy is going to go to his bullpen.
Kevin Kennedy will bring in the left-hander Brad Pennington, the former Oriole, to face Palmeiro next. 5 in the 9th, and a former Oriole, Brad Pennington, a left-hander with good stuff but a history of control problems, will come on here to face Rafael Palmeiro.
7th game of the year for Pennington. Last night he came in relief in the 8th inning, gave up a run. He didn't allow a hit, but he walked 3. 10 walks so far this season. There's never been too much concern about this guy's arm. It's just been whether or not he could master his control.
Back and forth they've gone in this game. It's been the Orioles who have made the 2 errors, one by Palmeiro, one by Ripken, leading to 3 unearned runs. That puts Baltimore behind. Roberto Alomar tied it with a solo homer in the 7th. He's now singled with a 1 out here in the 9th. Alomar with very good speed and about an 85% career stolen base percentage. He's at first, 1 down. The left-hander Pennington to face Rafael Palmeiro. Bottom of the 9th, a 5-5 tie. Strike 1. Palmeiro, over the course of his career, hits left-handers just about as well as righties. 302 against righties, 294 against lefties. 0-2.
Well, Pennington has got 2 breaking balls over to Palmeiro. Palmeiro, big swing at this breaking ball. You see he's out in front of it. Last Wednesday night against Paul Ossenmacher, Palmeiro won the game with a ball down into the right field corner in the 10th inning.
Alomar the lead. The 0-2. Inside for a ball. Someone framed it. John Denkinger didn't like it. Already leading. Cecil Fielder, another RBI in that game. His 20th of the season. Dwayne Stats, Dave Campbell with the Kingdom. We'll send you there when this one ends. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Palmeiro. Be on the move.
Davey Johnson won't stop him very often. Pennington does.
On the last pitch to the plate, Alomar was breaking back to the bag at first. Not going. Palmeiro hits it foul. The Orioles have had an act of dramatic wins, late inning wins, extra inning wins this year. Davey Johnson's team with a record of 10-2, their best since 1966, a year the Orioles won 97 games and the World Series. Fly ball to right on a broken bat. In comes Canseco to make the catch. 2 down. We will have yet another pitching change. Pennington gets his man. Heathcliff Slocum is on his way in.
Trying to send the Red Sox to their worst start ever. But Cal, that's an E for the O. Second of the season. That would lead to Will Cordero, the base hit off Roger McDowell, brings in 2. It's now 4-3 Orioles. Davey Johnson calls for a former Met, Jesse Orozco. Bases loaded for Mo Vaughn. 0 for 12 lifetime against Orozco, and he walked in. Tied at 4. Davey's seen enough. The Sox add 1 more. They take a 5-4 lead. Bottom of the inning, Roberto Alomar facing Mike Stanton. We're tied at 5. It stayed 5-5 until the 12th. The Orioles loaded the bases. 1 out. B.J. Surhoff. Ball game. Red Sox outfield obviously playing in. The Orioles win it 6-5 in 12. Boston's worst start in the 96-year history of the franchise. The O's 11-2 start, the best in the majors.